And now it's time for Who's Views Reviews with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Who's Views Reviews. We are back with proper Doctor Who, everybody. I can't believe it, can you? Paul, you're getting ready there, I see you're ready for this.
I'm reading the 7th Doctor Handbook, great read, and I want to speak to Brigadier about some of the ratings in this. I'll speak to you in a minute. Okay,
Brigadier is also reading something which we're going to be coming to in a second. But hello everybody, it is good to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Yes, after 8 weeks of mind-numbing, boring, atrocious version of Doctor Who, I am delighted that we are now back with proper Doctor Who, everybody. Let's hear it from the rafters. Let's hear the cheers.
Yay!
Yay! Here we go. Yes, because we are indeed, of course, everybody, here today together. I'm going to go into a sermon in a minute. I felt myself going into a sort of vicar mode then. But we are here today broadcasting together to head back to, of course, the 6th to the 27th of September 1989, which is when Battlefield was first broadcast, written, of course, by Ben Aronovich. It was directed by Michael Kerrigan. It was script edited by Andrew Cartmell, and it was, of course, produced by John Nathan Turner. As we now know, of course, this was the last series of Doctor Who. None of us knew it when this was going out on that 6th of September 1989. And it was a bit of a culture shock later down in the road, wasn't it? Where we were like, oh, excuse me, what's happening here? But here we are. Good to see you all. As you can see, I'm with Phil, I'm with Paul, I'm with Brigadier, and I'm with Emilio. Good to see you, fellas. Are you excited to be here talking about Doctor Who again?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're not going to let that one go, viewers, are we? It's going to run for ages, that one, but we are here. All right, so yeah, wow. I have to say that my 19-year-old self is probably going to be very, very unhappy with me today. And I think it is personally because I went back to this to review it for the show. Because, of course, in this particular show, we're honouring Jean Marsh, who passed last month, was that? She passed fairly recently. Yeah. And we're going to throw in Nick in there as well. But Jean Marsh died just a few weeks back. So this one is for Jean. So we're going to be looking at all that. But it was actually, after what we've just been through, it was an absolute joy to watch this. And I came away thinking, this isn't as bad as I thought it was.
Well, my 8-year-old self is proud of me because I watched it and I wasn't even scared of the Destroyer at all. So I did well.
The Destroyer is cool. Very good monster. Great makeup, great mask.
Yeah,
I found out he was blue.
What do you mean?
So when I first watched it, it would have been the 1993 repeat on a Friday night, and I watched it on a black and white telly upstairs in either my grandparents' house or my parents' house. And yeah, I didn't know he was blue.
Didn't you?
I think Sumo and Steve Mansfield had lots of blue paint because a lot of the monsters in that season were blue, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure we're going to be talking about Mr. Destroyer, as I came to call him, a little throughout this show as well. But it is brilliant. Look at it by today's standard. That's much better than any of the stuff we've just had as well. And they had millions more than John had in Doctor Who out of '89.
Exactly. Yeah.
Please
and the original mask.
Talk about it.
The original mask is in Peterborough Museum at the minute, and there's about 1 million cables come out of it. There it is.
As if by magic, Phil.
Ta-da!
Look at
that. Did you try to put it on?
That security got me long before I got the cabinet open.
People would have been saying, "Oh, spot the difference." But no,
no, my hair's grown.
Yeah, no. As Phil says, if you are around Peterborough, or you can get to Peterborough, you can see Phil's story, his visit to this here on the channel, on our Visitations channel and Live at 6 channel. But you can also go and see Mr. Destroyer down there, and it's still looking in good nick, isn't it? Look at that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's a truly marvelous number of wires and cables and stuff making that bad boy move. It's absolute genius.
Oh,
the animatronics aren't bad for the time, are they? Let's be honest. You know?
Yeah, all the snarls in the kind of eye movements and stuff.
I love that when it's drooling as well, when it's going to eat the earth and stuff. That's
Yeah.
amazing, isn't it? Great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I went out with somebody like that much later on, actually. It was a bit drooling.
You have to keep mopping them up. Yeah.
Yeah, Alphabet Cat. I have to say that the makeup and rubber effects of the Destroyer are epic. It's still very impressive. Ian Scales, Ian, is saying that Bambera, i.e. Brigadier Bambera, is iconic. Ooh, that's interesting. And Stephen Braddock with his picture of the Destroyer there. How goes the day? I've had better, which is one of the best lines, I think, in the entire last series of Doctor Who. David's with us. Hello, David. Ray, Real McCoy, one of my first Sylph stories, watching on UK Gold. Love it. You see, I forget this, Paul, because, having been there in 1989 and then doing other things when it was repeated, I forget there was a repeat that brought a lot more people to the show.
Well, yeah, UK Go superb for Doctor Repeats. I mean, amazing. They went back to the start and showed so many of the existing episodes. It was fantastic, and it was a great place to catch up.
Yeah.
But I want to say something about Battlefield, because you were saying you didn't like it when you were 19. I've always loved this. It's a difficult season because everything I think is really good in it. So, and I think Battlefield is the kind of less favourite one for fandom, I think. But I think it's a great story. It really is.
Yeah, I just remember at the time when it started, just being a little bit disappointed because it wasn't what I thought it could be. I still think that, really, but I'm prepared to forgive it nowadays, honestly. Hello, Sam. Hello, all. Was never that great a Seventh Doctor fan, but it's amazing how good it now looks after that dross we've had to put up recently. And Paul Schlifter is with us saying Part 3 was shown on my 12th birthday in 1993. Oof. I have very happy memories of that repeat season. Only seems like yesterday. I'm 44 now. Well, y'all do you.
Best people are, Paul.
And Ian's also saying to us, Ian Scales saying, I like the whole mythology in Battlefield. All the references to another life of the Doctor were great. That's one of the things I remember watching this back, guys. That whole sort of, he's had many faces, he's had many names, those lines in Battlefield. As a 19-year-old watching this, look, hang on a minute. What do you mean? Yeah. What's going on? So it's obviously future incarnations, which are always...
That's and there's all these parallel universe things as well, which are quite interesting.
Yeah, but I think now looking at Battlefield with the hindsight of where we are with the recent series, guys, is that's how you do. That's how you do future incarnations. You don't have to bloody well bring them in and call them a different name. You just suggest them. Do you know what I mean? What do you think?
Yeah. Or you don't do what they did, I think, with Capaldi, where with the bootstrap paradox in before the flood and under the lake, where he's literally spelling out to the audience that basically he is. I mean, obviously it's not that far in the future, but his future self is the one that is going to set the coordinate to basically he's the one that's in the cryogenic chamber, and it all kind of circles back to the fact that it's ahead of time. But this is much more subtle. It's giving you a few hints. It makes you question, is there a little bit more to the Doctor than we know, or what's going to happen in the future? So it gets your imagination going, which I think is the best way to do it.
What's great is that it just alludes to it being another incarnation. It doesn't say whether it's actually an older Doctor, but in the future of the story, or whether it's a future Doctor and coming back to the McCoy era. So I think nowadays, obviously, you've got to have a flashback sequence where you show which Doctor it is and all that sort of stuff. And actually, this is a brilliant way of going about it, just to sort of allude to other stories. And the Doctor in this comes into it. That first face off with Mordred. And it's like, do you know these guys? No, never met them before.
Oh, that's a beautiful line. Yeah. And the way Sylph does that, it's so natural. He plays it so well.
Yeah, but he's already tapped into the idea that, okay, this might be in my future. I haven't come across it yet. And just plays it as the Doctor, not something, just all the trappings of what we've got nowadays when they try and do this sort of story.
But this is how the Doctor would react, wouldn't it? I mean, he does it beautifully. There's that line later on where they're getting into the spaceship, and he goes through the whole thing, doesn't he? Say, when Ace says, "Are you Merlin?" and he says no, but I could be in my future, my own personal future, which could be the past. As Doctor Who fans, that makes perfect sense to all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it does to him as well.
I watched it with Ted on Monday, and so they all start calling him Merlin, and Ted's going, "So is he Merlin, Daddy?" And I'm like, "Just watch it, you'll find out." And then there was this point where he goes, "He's going to be Merlin, isn't he?" And I'm like, "Yeah, in the future at some point, maybe."
Yeah, and he's going to have ginger hair.
Moment he twigged it. It was great.
He's going to have ginger hair as well. Thank you, Mark Platt. In case you don't know, that's where that comes from. In the Battlefield Target novel, which I remember really enjoying actually when I read that, something like 20 years old or something. It's there. The future Doctor is in there, and he's got ginger hair. He's in that lovely prologue. Did any of you ever read that?
No.
I read it years ago, yeah.
Oh, I really enjoy it. If you can hunt it down, and it's still out there, Who viewers, if you can find a copy of Battlefield written by Mark Platt based on Ben's book, get it, because it's a good read. It really fleshes it out properly like the Target books were supposed to. It's on the cusp as well between the Target books ending and the new adventures coming along. So it's one of those sort of hybrid ones, really. But it's, very
talking about the future in this episode, I do like the subtle hints that is in the future. It doesn't tell you the date, but you've got the £5 piece, you've got the king, you've got all that kind of stuff. You've got all the signs saying kilometres rather than miles and stuff like that, and the electronic phone voice and all that kind of stuff. It's little hints that it's near future, but you don't know when, which is really nice, I think.
Which fits into the fact that we don't know when the unit stories originally were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apart from Mordred Undead, clearly, obviously.
Yeah. Well, obviously they learned the lesson with Mordred Undead, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, we're not going down that route again. Don't give it a bloody
Yeah. And part of that is the casting of Bambera, because it must be the future, because you've got a black female Brigadier, so it must be the future.
Must be, yes. Yeah.
But that's the wonderful thing about this, because do you know what? Back in 1988 into 89, when this is all coming out about what's going on, none of us batted an eyelid about this. And today there would be such a palaver and such a song and dance and all this nonsense, wouldn't there? But back then, none of us really. We didn't care. It was just a new.
No one even said, "Oh, shame" or something like that. You know?
No, not at all. And we didn't care that it was a woman. We certainly didn't care it was a black woman. It was Angela Douglas who was big at the time as well. That was the big draw. Not Angela Douglas. So, who am I talking about?
Bruce.
Yes, Angela Bruce. I mean, that was the big one for us. Oh, it's another name.
But was she just an Angels near to that time, hadn't she? I think. Yeah.
Oh, I think she'd done that, but she'd also done that thing with Craig as well, hadn't she? Film with Craig. She'd been around on, as Pill says.
She must have been on kids' TV because I knew who she was, and I was 8.
Oh, yeah. Amelia, when did you discover Battlefield, Amelia? Go on, make me feel older.
3 days ago.
A couple of years ago, yeah. A couple of years ago when I discovered it. I then did the kind of me rewatching it for the second time, which was good. It was good to kind of refresh my memory on it. But I said this to you, JT, yesterday, that the minute Nicola Courtney showed up on screen, I just smiled to myself and said, "Okay, now this is Doctor Who." Yes, yeah. Actually, it was just like one of those moments of just realization of, okay. Yeah, the pile of crap we've been served over the past 2 years. I hadn't watched any Doctor Who since Classic Who since the new series aired recently. So it was just it was really, really refreshing.
Yes. We've got Mark Reeves in the chat saying to us, guys, it shows you don't need Disney CGI to make sci-fi. This was more sci-fi than anything we've seen in the past 2.5 years on this alleged Doctor Who, I tell you. And yet they've got the fantasy element in there because it's a parallel universe colliding with ours. Yeah. So very interesting. Ahead of its time, the story from Mr. Aronovich. Just Jordan saying to us, can I just say I want to be able to retire with a garden big enough to land a helicopter? Woodhouse 122 saying unit in Battlefield was light years better than the current era. And David Shaw's with us saying, I haven't seen Battlefield yet. I'm getting the DVD on Saturday, JC. Well, David, I hope we can set you up for this and you can let me know.
And don't spoil it.
Yeah, should we give spoiler alerts?
There will be some spoilers in this, I'm sure. But, David, you're going to have to get on with it. It's over 40 years old. But listen, on the DVD, I'm hoping the DVD you've got has got 2 versions on because you might, there should also be the special edition on the DVD as well. So you're going to have a very long night.
But a good one. a rewarding night.
Yeah. Stephen Bello did say to us there that practical FX are always better than CGI. And Alfie Jack's with us. I have a great fondness for Battlefield, and I was so emotional when I saw Bessie.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, David. Ruin that for you.
McCoy was cheated. He was just getting a handle on the Doctor, and it was ended, said Forbidden Man. Do you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point, isn't it? Because he really was. And looking back now, with all these years back, again, having been through all the crap we've been through with the idiot that's been playing allegedly the Doctor, McCoy nails it, doesn't he?
Oh, definitely. I love his darker jacket.
Yeah.
But no offense, Bedway, I'm not very keen on that polo and that tank top. I've never liked it. I wish they got rid of it.
Yeah.
I think if you just took the jumper off, it'd be fine.
Or give him a brown waistcoat or something to go with it, or something like that. Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah.
I do
the
agree.
last set as well. Oh, sad.
Yeah. I do agree with the fact that the performance here. He knows what he's doing, Sylv, now, doesn't he? This is his third year. He didn't know at the time that it was going to be his last because he had committed to a fourth. But he knows what he's doing with the role of the Doctor. And for me, I just thought, actually, this isn't, again, what I remembered. This is actually a nice performance. And he's adding all these little elements in of...
Oh, there's some lovely bits, yeah. My favourite bit is the bit where they're in the pub and everyone screams and it goes darky, the fantastic sunrise, and then you get McCoy waking up when they're sleeping with a crisp bag. That is absolutely genius. I love that bit. Superb.
Yeah,
and he's a similar
Doctor,
kind of bit of business when they're having the sword fight and he walks through the two of them. That's superb as well. I love that. Great sound.
Lift his hat and
it's his Doctor, definitely. Yeah, superb.
Yeah. Because again, I don't think any of the others would get away with that. That's him.
Mm-hmm.
It's lovely. It is a lovely bit, isn't it? Because it's just what they do. I'm going to ignore it. Hi.
It's like the comic stuff's there, but it's less distracting, I think.
Yeah.
Where it's a bit annoying early on, but by now it's refined. It's there, but it's cool.
Yeah.
And even a little bit at the end when he goes, "I'll cook supper," and goes off. That's lovely as well. Just little moments like that, really nice.
Let's talk about the ending, please. I have to build myself up to it, even today. Well, what have we got? Bidwi, you found something today, didn't you? While you were looking around, what is it you've got there?
I did. So this is a script for Battlefield Episode 4. It's quite thick, actually. Did go on a bit, but then there are some pages that have very minimal stuff on them.
That thing, Doctor.
Yeah, so I don't, but it's got all the details. So, which were the OB locations, which were the sets, all the details for when the read through was, the rehearsals, all that sort of stuff. Just like you would get on any Doctor Who script from that time. But this actually came from JNT's collection and was from the Doctor Who production office. So this is actually a rehearsal script. But I wish I'd found it earlier and I would have sat down and gone through the episode with the script and seen how much it changes. But the line of "I'll make supper" is still in there.
I always love these things when you see these things at the top there. It always says the sending of this script does not constitute an offer or a contract for any part in it. Just to make double shot in case we decide we don't like you.
Yeah, because although the cast are listed, there's no actors assigned to them.
Yeah,
you've got all the technical people you can see on the front page, but in terms of cast, no, they're not there.
So it could have been Paul McGann instead. Yes.
Stop it. That's great. That's very interesting, that though, isn't it? It's nice to see that all these years later. Thanks for that, Bedway. It's really good.
These documents are really fascinating. When you look at sort of camera scripts that we have from like the 60s episodes and things like that, they are really interesting documents to have and look through. So yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Coming to join us about proper Doctor Who at last, I tell you. Lex Kane, thank you for your super chat. Do you remember the real incident with Sylvester McCoy where he saved Sophie Aldred's life on set? Well, we're never going to forget about that one, are we? Really?
No, that's Sylvester's eye patch story, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, he still dines out on that one, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, rightly so. Quite
right. Yeah.
I mean, not just Sophie's really, but everyone who was in the studio because the water was pouring out and they had live cables everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and I remember being in when I joined the BBC in, what was it, 2008, it was still part of the training video.
Was it still there?
It was
Yeah.
still there about, safety in studios. It was still used.
Jess is saying 3 roles in Doctor Who, obviously for Jean, as Joan of England in the Crusades, Sarah Kingdom, a companion of the First Doctor. And then this one, Morgaine.
With Nick Courtney as well, which is
not bad there. But do you want to tell us the story for anybody that's new to this about what happened on Battlefield with Sophie?
I mean, it's quite an infamous story now. But for those who don't know, so the climax of episode 2 or 3.
I think it's 2, isn't it?
2.
I think 2. Yeah. It must be 2. So the climax of episode 2 is the Doctor and Ace have gone into this spaceship under the lake, and they've activated the sort of internal self-defense system, and they're trying to get back out. In the script, it says about they can't find the exit that they came in through because of the darkness, which is a shame because the studio is so overlit that doesn't really happen. So they're just wandering around in the 2 directions they have, because it's that's the only direction they can go. And Ace runs into a small pod. A glass screen comes down, and the pod that she's in basically fills up with water. Which simple enough idea, but in reality, once you put a lot of water behind glass, the glass itself needs to be strong enough to deal with that pressure behind it, and the glass wasn't thick enough for the amount of water they were pouring in. You can see it quite clearly that the glass cracks and shatters. You can see the cracks, and there was no opportunity to refilm this. And Sylve was up against the glass. He could feel it bulging, which it's not meant to do for a start. And then suddenly, crack, all the water starts to pour out the bottom. Sylve yells at the effects guys who are, predominantly pouring water onto Sophie's head. But he tells them to grab her, pull her out. And that's the shot you can see of her exiting the tank. And then he yells to turn off the electricity because there's water pouring all over the studio floor. Fortunately, it was the last shot of the day. They were smart and left it to last, but it was quite dramatic. It was in the News of the World the following day or a few days afterwards. Reported. And as I mentioned, it's been used in BBC training videos ever since for how not to operate water in a television studio.
It's amazing. See, in the 80s we learnt everything.
Yeah, there was no health and safety.
Yeah, because we didn't have anything like that. Everybody was making it up as we got it wrong. I just do the best I can, says Steve Black. Yes, classic line from the Brig there. And McCoy was amazing, said Ian Scales. Good to see you all in the chat. Good to see you. What are your standout moments then, everybody, about this one?
Can I just mention something for that someone made a comment about the bit where Jean Marsh gives the wife her sight back after having destroyed the pilot, and she should have said, "There's a line really missing from there." The remake stood out for me was, "Don't worry about it. Just hoover up the body. It'll be fine. It's just that's fine." They missed an opportunity, I think.
Yeah. Could well be. Jean Marsh is wonderful in this, though, isn't she?
Oh, she's superb in it. She's really scary and powerful at the same time. Wonderful performance. Yeah.
It just shows how versatile as an actress she was. Because at this point, people possibly coming to see her in Doctor Who, at this point would have known her, I think, for being in Upstairs, Downstairs more than anything else.
Yeah.
It was Rose, wasn't it? She played, ironically.
Yeah.
Upstairs, Downstairs. Yeah. So brilliant. I remember at the time thinking, oh, Jean Marsh is going to be back in Doctor Who. I'm really looking forward to, when John let the news go to the monthly, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be great. Jean Marsh back in Doctor Who with Nick Courtney.
Yeah.
Bit of a fan thing that was, wasn't it, really?
She got great screen presence, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
When you're watching her, and especially when she, talking to Nick Courtney, just having the two of them on screen, talking to each other, I think is a great scene. It's a great moment. I would say that my fate. I know a lot of people will probably say the Doctor's kind of anti-war speech, Capaldi, let's say, at the end is a great scene. But for me, I would say actually, I thought what was interesting is where she berates her, Morgaine berates her son, right, for basically not showing respect to the dead, right? So the idea of the victory, but with honor, basically. And I thought that was great because it's a great example of adding kind of complexity to your villain. They're not just two-dimensional, which is, if we take what they did to Omega in the last season, right? Just and most of the villains, actually, I would say a lot of the villains in New Who tend to be two-dimensional. But I think adding that kind of complexity, she gives the sight back, as you said, to the blind person. So she's not pure evil. She has her motivations, and you can sympathize with her in certain aspects as well. If I had to put up with if I was a mother and I had to put up with a son like that, I would.
He needs a jolly good smack bottom, as Hartman might say.
Exactly. But I think that scene was great. She acted it brilliantly, and I think it just made it a lot more interesting as an episode when you saw that.
Mm.
And you talk about the interaction with Morgaine and Mordred, and that's one of the bits that Ted noticed. You know the bit where the Brigadier says, like, "I'll try me, I'll shoot you," and then she just goes, like, "Die well." And then Ted was like, "But isn't she his mum?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she is, but she's horrible." She doesn't care. But that really got to him. It made him comment. It was amazing.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? That's interesting.
Really
It's a very complex character. That scene is in the pub, which you were talking about, Emilio, where you've got the 1 minute she's just killed the unit soldier, right? And then she's restoring the sight of this blind woman.
Well, that's to pay for the bar tab, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is, but she goes.
He had quite a few pints, to be fair. It's probably quite a large tab, I'd imagine.
Yes, and he still managed to stand up and walk out. I was very impressed.
Yeah,
but it was £5 for a lemonade, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, do you know
what I mean, though?
More expensive, aren't they?
It shows she's just taking a life on one hand, and then second, it's like what Colin Baker used to say about how he wanted his Doctor to be, isn't it? To show that alienness of it, he could step over a dead human being who was dead, but then end up in seconds later crying over a dead butterfly. Here's Jean doing that exact thing with Morgaine, and it's very, very sort of wow. I remember, it's just you look at that. I remember at the time thinking, this is really weird stuff.
when Morgaine kills the unit soldier, that scream the actor gives is horrible. It's really heart-wrenching, isn't it?
Oh, do you know what? I'm still upset to that to this day. It brings it all back because I was getting attached to her. I thought, oh, this is going to be the Briggs' little sidekick here. This is going to be the sort of Benton type thing going on. And then bang, off she goes. I was really upset.
Shame, good character.
Yeah. Mark A. Rice is saying to us, at 17 years old, Battlefield was the story that saw me jump from watching the show. It started off so well with the Brigadier, but seemed to lack the scale necessary. But I've watched it over and over.
Well, you changed your mind then. That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and Alphabet Cat is actually quite rightly pointing out it's quite a similar character to the character she plays in Willow. Yeah, except in no, it wasn't Willow. I saw her in. I saw her in Return to Oz, and she scared the hell out of me.
Return to Oz is just scary anyway. It's just a weird film. Yeah.
Well, it is when you're watching it at 2:30 in the morning when you've been clubbing.
I didn't do that, but yeah, okay. I'll take your word for it.
Maybe you should try it sometime and see how it works.
Well, maybe you should. I remember it. Right, we came in from clubbing one night from London, and Return to Oz is on. So we're all sitting there with bags of chips and all this sort of stuff, and I'm like, because of Jean Marsh, she was totally British. She wasn't like this in Doctor Who. It's absolutely fantastic. Bill Larry. There will be no battle here today. McCoy couldn't do commanding, whereas Matt Smith made the same line and order. Oh,
yeah, there are a couple of moments that are a bit, but you can let him off with it after Shooty's performance. You can,
It can lean a little bit too pantomime-y a little bit sometimes, but then sometimes he gets it bang on. I agree with a lot of people. I don't think it's a McCoy Beth episode, but I think in some of the key scenes he does hit it out of the park. But then there are some scenes where you're like, I feel like I'm in the theatre.
Yeah, there's the bit where he's
Yeah.
straining with the scabbard on the floor.
Yeah, like he's
Yeah.
in a guitar a bit, isn't he? It's just
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it sort of works, but it's not quite on point. And there are other moments then which he absolutely nails.
Yeah.
But that's a slightly weird one. And then
Yeah.
the sort of lengthy speech to Morgaine just to eat up the 45 seconds, you know, again doesn't land because it's a bit too long. But then, you know, all his stuff in front of when he's actually face to face with Morgaine is a bit stronger. So maybe it's just having that other actor to work from. And
we have to remember as well that this story was originally a 3-parter and it was extended.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem with it.
Yeah, because I think it sometimes shows. But Ben Aronovich has been very critical of his piece of work here for Battlefield over the years, saying that he struggled to develop the story into a 4-parter. There were certain aspects of the thing he didn't like. It's not one of his favorite pieces of work. He was very critical of the look of the show. It was very critical of the design of the show, some of the direction, and the music, the incidental music. But I can forgive him that one because it's bloody awful. Hey, the Jamie 9526 is saying to us, one of the best bits that people don't mention often is when Ace uses a racial slur against Shao and realizes she's being manipulated because that's not who she is. It's so subtle. That's how you do it, you see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I watched it on iPlayer this afternoon, and I expected that to be cut, and it wasn't. I was really surprised.
I'm glad it's not, because that is actually where most of us around Ace's age and upwards into our 20s were at the time.
Yeah,
you know, and with with hindsight, you can actually say that's where we were at. It was all on a cusp of changing in the 90s, because nobody really in the 90s, as far as I'm concerned, gave a real crap. You know, there were other things to do. And it's interesting looking back now, because there's so many people judging all of us now that we're older. But there it is in Doctor Who. That's what we did. You didn't do that because nobody really cared. And that beautiful scene, I'm glad it's still there, because it just shows you lost.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's like if they had cut, they missed the point entirely. That's the thing. And I'm surprised they hadn't missed the point, because that's what they do normally. You know what I mean?
Exactly. John Roberts saying to us, it was lovely seeing Angela Douglas in this as the Briggs wife, a stalwart and go-to carry-on girl in the mid to late 60s. Totally agree.
I remember from I think she did 5 carry-ons.
I think so.
Yeah.
Trying to work on that. Up the Khyber, Cowboy.
Screaming.
Oh, I don't know. Now I'm stuck.
I can't remember offhand.
Where's 2 other unforgettable films?
Yeah. But she always writes, there's something in those bushes. We covered that one. But yeah, you're right there. And Steve Black has got this where the Doctor writes to himself. That's a great bit. That.
Yeah.
I'm very doctory.
Yeah. What's it say? It's in my handwriting. That's a great line.
It's all these bits, isn't it, where he just takes it. Okay, I've been here before, but I haven't been yet. I love it all. Yeah, it's a dig hole here. And then who signs this? The Doctor. Oh, that explains all that then.
Oh.
I love it.
And James Ellis is a great foil for the Doctor as well. I think he's really good in this as well. Jimmy Ellis, superb performance. Yeah. Peter Wormsley, great character.
Again, another name at the time, wasn't he?
Zedcard's team. Yeah.
Zedcard, and wasn't he doing something else at the time as well?
Oh, is that the one about the safari park or the zoo? What was it called?
Something like that, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah,
that was a big hit for them, wasn't it? Look at these pictures, everybody. I love these pictures. These were obviously BBC Studios, but Doctor Who Monthly ran with these for a little while as well. The press calls that JNT was known for, and which he loved doing. Must have been a pain for the cast, because they were trying to record a show.
Yeah.
But these little pictures were in a few of the tabloids at the time. But I love them. It's just so nice seeing it's so long ago now, isn't it?
But it is. There's one thing that still irritates the hell out of me is Betty having Who 7 on it, but we'll gloss over that.
Oh yeah. And Christopher Bowen there, of course, who played Mordred, went on to audition for the role of the 8th Doctor, if you didn't know.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, you can actually see his audition tape. I'm sure he's delighted with that.
Just to go back to Peter Wormsley, I love James Ellis just going off and doing lines from Tennyson.
Yeah, it's lovely. Really nice.
It's great. And if you've got like the extended version, he really did go on for quite a bit in certain scenes.
Yeah,
it's lovely stuff, because it just feeds into the story.
He's a lovely kind of grumpy kind of character, but with a little twinkle. It's really lovely. Nice performance. Very good.
Mark Milford's was the same. Morgaine was meant to be tragic, not evil. She refuses to detonate the nuclear missile when she realizes it would dishonor the battlefield's dead. It's another nice twist. That, I mean, that whole sort of CND message, as we would have called it back in the day. It's a little bit on the nose, really, isn't it? A little bit OTT.
Well, compared to what we used to recently, I don't think it is.
That's what I was going to say. It's tame now, isn't it? You look at it now, and at the,
it's subtle compared to what we had last week, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And you sort of forgive it now because it doesn't hit you over the head like everything they do today. But again, Morgaine, we're dealing with we're dealing with a witch here, but we've got to remember in mythology, she is human.
Yeah,
and I think Jean's lovely touch of bringing that out here again with those awful nails. By the way, she really needs to see somebody about those. Absolutely incredible performance from Jean. It's beautiful.
Emilio mentioned like the bit about honoring the dead and stuff, and that kind of sets up the fact that she isn't dishonorable and evil and horrible. And so when she gets the CND talk, she changes her mind, and it's not out of the blue. It's not just a kind of, I've changed my mind, it's all over. Yeah, it's been set up before. It's been prepared for.
Yeah, it has.
It's woven into the story, as you're saying. And even I was, when I was watching it, I was like, okay, that's why you got the medieval warfare versus the modern warfare, basically, and having that contrast in the same episode. Even it's all woven into the story. Whereas in modern Who or the recent stuff, it would just come out of nowhere and just whack you over the head.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it even if you felt it was a little bit on the nose, at least it's worked its way to somewhat earning that, if that makes sense. At the end. So it becomes less of a sledgehammer, more like a blunt, maybe a slightly blunt knife.
Yeah. That dialogue at the time, though, in 1989, I remember cringing at it. I was just thinking, give over. Where are you going with this? And thankfully, it never happened again, especially in that season. But as Paul's saying now, I can live with it now because it actually washes over me now because we know what the result of it all was. And also because it's certainly not slapping me with a wet kipper. Like
it feels really subtle in comparison, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's totally. And apparently, Cartmel wrote that. Because Aronovich, I remember him saying years ago, he didn't like it. He didn't want it in there. But Cartmel wrote it. And apparently it went on for days. So he had to cut it. And then they filmed it. And then him and John had to sit down and cut it again because it was still too long. So we actually got the best of a very long-winded piece of nonsense.
Yeah, and Sylvester had to learn the original script, didn't he? So, yeah.
I bet he was pleased. Boom, 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 says Jason Parker, thinking we're watching Basil Brush. Oh, no, sorry, it says. Sorry, Ace, I have to leave my room. Leave it to the Venga boys. Seen them three or four times, actually, Jason. Yes. Cringe. I do like the Destroyer's prosthetic. Underused, but impressive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah. It was only because of John that we got the whole thing, wasn't it? Because it was supposed to be a human, wasn't it? That metamorphosized into something else. And when John saw the costume and the makeup and the animatronic, he said, no, we're having a monster. That's in it. Yeah. No human. So
that cliffhanger.
To put the thing on.
The cliffhanger part is brilliant, and you get that fantastic shot of the destroyer. Really good, great cliffhanger.
Oh, it's brilliant. Mark is telling us here, guys, the destroyer's costume weighed over 50 kilograms. That's 110 pounds in old money, and required 3 people to control the animatronics. Well, yeah.
It's all them wires.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. As I say, I'm so impressed that it's still around because I saw it at a convention in 1990 at Liverpool with the Liverpool Dwaz. And I was so impressed with this thing. And Fifi was there, and some of the Hemivore costumes were there because it was all Steve Moore.
Yeah, and Sue Mansfield, yeah,
and Sue Mansfield, yeah, and they were there as well. And it was just, I couldn't believe that they're still around now because you just thought, rubber,
just perish, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Thank you to everybody in the chat that's telling us, like Martin here, James Ellis's zoo was 1 by 1.
That's the one. Yes, I remember it now. Yeah, the great theme as well.
I remember now. Yeah. Was that Saturday night? Steve Black also saying 1 by 1.
It was Saturday night. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
and it was huge. It was huge. So again, John chose quite well with James Ellis coming into it. It's just a shame nobody watched. A lot of you now talking about the carry-ons as well. That's another show for us, everybody. Here we go. Noodle Arms is saying Angela Bruce was in Red Dwarf the previous year in a parallel universe playing the female version of Lister.
Ah,
That's
Yeah.
That's why
probably
she was
where I
gassed.
knew her
She
from.
was. Now, if Jodie had been with us, she would have known that straight away as the huge Red Dwarf fan that she is. But of course she was. I knew it was something with Craig Charles Noodle Arms. Thank you for that. Yeah, God, the memories are coming back on this show, I tell you. Poor old Emilio doesn't know what he's missed. Should have been born earlier.
That'll learn you.
I
You
think I
can't
can
blame
live
him
on
for
that.
that,
But
Ian Scales is saying to us, guys, I like how Morgaine compares the release code to incantation. There's a definite connection in that precise letters, numbers have power to release the weapon. Oh, yeah, that's true, isn't it? And Andrew Park, hello, Andrew. It's nice that the landlady gets her site back, but that's not going to cover the cost of renovating the pub.
Insurance will cover that.
yeah.
You're mad, are you? It was 1989. Oh, well, no, it wasn't, was it? It's some point in the future.
At some point
Yeah.
in the future.
It was
Where acts of
1991,
magic
I think
is
it
there
was.
with fire and death.
Yeah. Do you know? Yeah. Do you know? I think in the novel they set it in 1997. Does anybody in the
Wow.
chat remember? I'm sure in the novel, somebody was saying they've read the. Who was it that's read the book this week? I'm sure it said it was 1997 in the novel. They actually really put it down there. Noodle Arms is saying also, I really like the subtle reference to Liz Shaw. Just the little things that make a big difference. I've heard that before somewhere. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lovely bit, that, isn't it, guys? Actually, it's quite a fun bit.
Yeah, they've got that, but then it overdoes it a bit with listing all the different aliens and stuff. That was a bit too much, probably. But
I like it. I like
enjoy
the
that bit,
listing of
okay.
aliens. Yeah.
you like Time Lash, though, don't you? So
Yeah, so fair dues.
I don't mind it either because he's been thrown out of the unit trailer, and it must
And
be
it's
a
like
little bit of an insult. So there he is
Yeah.
saying these 5 things just to say, "Oh, I know what I'm talking about." You know, I think it's all right. I'm again, these little things I noticed in Battlefield that they've tried to do recently, and they've messed it up. Nicely done in Battlefield, very subtly done.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not over the top. And if this was the R2D2 era, we were getting every Liz Shaw would just randomly just turn up in the episode, and it was
Liz Shaw be in a flashback sequence from season 7, probably.
yeah, exactly.
Passing her ID back to the doctor.
Sure. It deliberately, if you're a new audience member, it's just a little throwaway line, little nostalgia, fan service for the fans. The fans will understand it, but it's not detriment to the story. You don't need to know who Liz Shaw is. You can just go, oh, it's somebody the Doctor knew in the past. That's fine. But obviously, with the new stuff, you if you don't know who Omega is, then you're not going to know what the whole story is about, etc., or Gallifrey and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, much more subtle. It's not a detriment to the story, and that's how it should be done.
Emilio, as somebody who's and Brigadier as well, somebody that's sort of new to it, do you feel that this is still, with what you're saying there, can you see that this is still Doctor Who, even though it's moved on slightly? Does it still feel to you the same thing as Tom Baker or John Pertwee?
Yes. It gives me this particular episode is very, and I love the Pertwee era, so it's very Pertwee-esque. In obviously you have the Brigadier unit, it's an Earth-based story, but you can see the story being in the Third Doctor's era, and I think it's got all the fundamentals of a Doctor Who story. The Doctor is the Doctor. There's no honeys and babes and all of that kind of stuff. It's a Doctor Who story. It might not be the best Doctor Who story, but it's a Doctor Who story.
Yeah,
And the unit characters have more charisma, particularly the Brigadier, than the current lot.
That's true. Well, yeah, it's more units, isn't it? It's more recognizable unit. You don't have this big multi-million-dollar base. I mean, UNIT was a military organization, which you're not allowed to have now, which is why they're all in the bloody office.
Well, it's why when they brought UNIT back in season 1, why they felt they had to patronize the audience by changing what it stood for, which was really pointless, Give the audience some credit. They're not going to start their own United Nations website, for goodness sake, are they? Let's be honest,
They even try in this story, of course, to go back to the Havoc days, really, of UNIT, where you've got people flying around all over the place and all the stuntmen having a fabulous time on trampolines and doing little somersaults and stuff. But
I'm sure there's a sequence in Battlefield at the end of episode 3 when they're all doing that. It's almost the same sequence from Remembrance with the Daleks, isn't it? The bit where
I think this is more,
the same kind of action. Yeah.
I think this is more in tune with the Pertwee era. I think they've really tried to put that down as a unit thing, and I think that's Ben's writing where he's put it into the script. But what it lets down for me is the fact it's not on film.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't look that good, you know, with all these lovely explosions and the dry ice everywhere. It doesn't. Video just doesn't work for me.
It looks a bit cheap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like Neighbours a bit, doesn't it? That's the problem. You know,
Yes,
soap
I think
opera.
if they put it on
Yeah.
film, which we know was never going to happen, especially at this point in Doctor Who's life, where the BBC just didn't want it. If it had been on film, I think it could have been a little bit more, because I always expected at the time, I was expecting, and call me naive, everybody, but the way that Doctor Who Monthly had built it up, the way that the Doctor Who newsletter from the Doctor Who production office had sort of implied it, I was expecting Avalon. I was expecting Robin of Sherwood. And I didn't quite get that. And I think had they got on film, it would have added just that extra texture, you know, especially around the dry ice around the lake and all this sort of stuff. It might have just, that's just me. Just me. I think it's a shame, really, because it does, as you say, Phil, it comes across a little bit cheap. Really. And it's great action series, and that bloody incidental music. I'm sorry, Kev, but it's rubbish.
It reminded me of the A-Team music. And yeah, it was a bit. It was just. Yeah, that's what I felt they were going with, the old classic 80s style music. But it was so hammy. It just it cuts all the seriousness and drama I find out of the episode. Whenever they played that music, I was like, please shut up. Okay, great. Quiet.
I was going to say something. Phil, you get your own back now. I actually like the music in this. It's only Ken McCulloch's score I actually like, because I think it fits for this, but it doesn't fit for Remembrance, because it's Remembrance of the 60s. That doesn't really fit. The music doesn't kind of gel for me in that one, but I like it in this. It suits it, I think. You know?
See, I disagree. I think it's tinny, and I think it's of its time. I mean, the whole
he's got a drum machine. We said that before, but
yeah, and all that
I
music
don't dislike
as
it.
well. Oh, please. And for me, I would have liked something a little bit. Do you remember there were loads of rumors at the time that they were going to get somebody in to do the music for this? Who was it? Who was the big Celtic band Who viewers at the time? Not Clannad.
Not Clannad, right?
But somebody else. It wasn't Fleetwood Mac, but there was another sort of band out there, and they were all saying, "Oh, it's going to be this. It's going to be this." And I remember liking that idea, knowing it was, "Oh, there's no chance you're going to get them." But I think that's the music that should be, and then you get Kev McCulloch. No offense.
That was his last contribution, though, wasn't it? He didn't do anything else the rest of the season.
No.
Did he? It was Dominic and Mark, wasn't it? I think the rest
Dominic.
of it.
Yeah. I can't remember. Let's go and look.
Yeah.
But I was so, and again looking at this, I don't like the incidental music. I think it's too tinny 80s pop, and it's a shame, really, because we're saying, you know, you can go back to Battlefield today and really enjoy it, can't you? Who views? You can go back and watch it, and it's. Phil, you said to me, this is timeless.
Yeah, I think it is. And I'm not going to harp on about. I'm not going to harp on about Teddy, but like, he was adamant when I watched it on Monday night that he was too hot and he had a headache and he wasn't going to watch it with me. So I was like, fair dues, I'm going in the front room. He walks in about the time the Knights are having the first kind of skirmish around the TARDIS. He sits on my legs, and he was there until the end of episode 3 when I sent him to bed, because it was late. So it is timeless, and kids will happily sit down and watch a multi-part story. And then yesterday we finished it. He came back from school. He was like, when you finish work, can we watch episode 4?
I rest my case, my lord.
So I finished work and we watched episode 4.
See, this is why I say that any future iteration of Doctor Who should be back to serials.
Yeah.
Especially if they're all going on about other attention span is like that of a gnat. You know, we'll give them something that's 25 minutes. Go on. I met Stephen Moore in 1990 at the same event as Stephen Braddock. You never did. Wow. There were a lot of people there. Sally Nievetti was there as well. Do you remember? Although she had to go home because she was poorly. Destroyerhead and Hans, Fifi, the Pipe People. Oh, the Pipe People. I forgot about them. They were there too, weren't they? And the Hemovore Mask. It was a great event, though, as well. Sophie was there too. Do you remember? She was there. I've got some nice pictures. I'll have to dig them out sometime. And Geriatric is saying to us, it's lovely to see the Brig again in this story.
Really
Andrew Parker, the Destroyer, went to the gym. He's got a 6-pack. That was Anton as well under all that, wasn't he? He was a good-looking fella. Anton.
It was like Batman. It was like fake, wasn't it?
No, he had. Yeah. Anton was in the Curse of Fenric as well. But he had you know, one of the original 80s gym queens, except he's not a queen. Carwyn Morris is saying the thing with Battlefield is walking a line of science fiction drama and light comedic moments that are sometimes overdone hammy. But when it sinks its teeth in, it does it well. Ooh. Oh,
I
that's
don't
good.
think the comedic moments are that hammy-ness. That's what I said earlier. I think
Yeah.
it gets away with it a bit more because they're a bit more subtle, a bit more refined. I like them.
I think it's a fantasy a Doctor Who should go, and I think that for me, I find it that it's I think that's probably where they're trying to get at. Also, I think it's on that line. I think the good thing about this is that okay, you can see some kind of sorcery and magic, but what Doctor Who used to do very well, they always used to be kind of a scientific explanation, or in this case, you know that these guys are coming from another dimension. The great thing is you don't know. Or you're not told. It's left to your imagination. You know what kind of abilities or what differences there are to the normal world on the normal universe or normal Earth. So I think it does, and they don't overblow the sorcery too much that it becomes completely unbelievable and just fantastical. Again, compared to the recent stuff, which is just full-blown nonsense and no logic, at least trying to give some slight backstory without going too much into it. Thing. So I think it does. If it goes any more, I would have said it's more fantasy than sci-fi.
Well, at least I understand this story. I have to say, I don't have to ask you, Amelia, what it's all about. You know what I mean? So that's.
Well, I do have an issue with the story. Is when I was watching it back, I did feel that there were certain bits of the story could have got tighter on. You know, why does Jean Marshall's character? Why does she want Excalibur? It didn't feel like it was, you know, the motivations I found weren't obviously clear or made clear enough to the audience. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't really get the threads of why this was important, and it didn't logically make sense what the ultimate goal was.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Emilio. I was looking up. As I said, this is a rehearsal script, so the original ends the episode where the Doctor and Morgaine are sort of locked over the nuclear weapon system, and actually her motivation comes across is that she wants to see Arthur dead. Basically, so the Doctor's basically says that when the missile explodes, you're going to die. She says, "I will die proudly, knowing that the cursed Arthur dies with me." The Doctor reacts to say, "You hate him that much," and Morgaine says, "My hatred for him is all that I have lived for. His destruction, my only purpose." And so she's waited these 12 centuries, etc., only for the Doctor to then say he died 12 centuries ago. That's her motivation, really, is because she is the antagonist to Arthur and Merlin as well. So that's
And they were clearly lovers, right? That's what I got at the end.
Yeah. They were
the whole thing about the Airbnb.
You can only hate someone if you love them. So I think that makes sense. But also, I didn't
They
get
had a lover's tiff, obviously. That's what happened.
Why did she need the sword? I never kind of understood what the point of why.
Excalibur was the secret of power, wasn't it?
Yeah, Excalibur's always been this mythical kind of beyond just the sword. Yeah, that also has. It's funny you talk about the sort of mystical properties and the sort of fantasy element. It doesn't overdo that sort of stuff because you've still got the physicality of sword fights and laser guns and all that sort of thing. So, whereas today, it would really overamp the fact that she's a witch and all these mysterious things would happen, and you just sort of bat it away as it's because she's a witch. But
I don't even know whether they'd allow a witch in a version of Doctor Who today under RTD2, because that would probably be problematic. They'd probably get a drag queen to play her.
But sort of going on that point about the technology and things, when she's got the kind of thing where she's opening the portal and you've got the two kind of glowing spheres and then the dry ice and the kind of, that also looks a bit technology-y, like a kind of teleportery thing. And so I think there's this nice kind of, yes, there's magic, but there is also perhaps there's technology in there. And I kind of like the Doctor Who thing of explaining magic as technology, and that satisfies me. That thing that she's built or brought with her could easily be a transmat or
I have to
Well,
say
that's what it
that
is, yeah.
transmat setting looked like something you could buy at B&Q in the 80s, I think, or Home Base, I think. You know what I mean?
most front rooms had one with the
Yeah, yeah.
VHS and the laser displayer in there.
Well,
It-
let's face it, guys. It probably came from Top of the Pops.
Yeah,
Lex,
probably, yeah.
thank you so much for your super chat. It had Highlander vibes in Battlefield. Well, of course, this was decades before Highlander came along, really, wasn't it? Oh no, I'm getting mixed up with the TV show, wasn't it? Highlander. Oh, that's
Highlander,
that
the movie
terrible
with-
film.
Kinda not 87, the first movie, wasn't it? Something like that?
First
Oh,
movie
yeah.
was a little before that, yeah.
Yeah, awful. Dr. Dredd is saying, do you think this was the show that made the BBC's mind up to call it time on Doctor Who? No, that was a story called Warriors of the Deep a few years before. Yeah, this was Doctor Who on borrowed time because of the what had happened, of course, in '85 was we, the fans, we'd been outraged and we let the world know. And the BBC very quickly, of course, backed down, and it got a 3 more series at least after 1986.
And this season was on a high, definitely, without a doubt.
Yes. But I think Peter Cregan had made a decision as this was in production myself that it was going to gently come off the air and not come back. Marie UK, thank you for your super chat. Jean scared me in Return to Oz and Ghost Hunter. I've never seen Marie. I've never seen Ghost Hunter. I've never seen that one, and I keep meaning to look that one up because I believe she is brilliant in that. But Return to Oz, yeah, whoa, I couldn't sleep. Martin Duff saying to us, evening ago, for reasons I can't recall, I didn't see Battlefield until the repeat run on BBC Two in 1993. It's not a favourite by any means, but I'm here tonight to give it another chance. That's what we like, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we like. We've also got Ian Scales saying to us, I think the main criticism was how they made the knights have medieval armour when it was written to be a technological armour. I want to talk about the knights in a minute, please.
Budget, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah. What else we got there as well? There was another super chat there. Let me just try and find that, guys, before we carry on, because I want to say thank you. William Orlock is there with 86 saying, blurring medieval fantasy with science fiction in excellent fashion. It does, doesn't it? It really does. And it's PTA. Thank you, PTA, for your super chat. Loved Battlefield, but Fenric and Survival.
Yeah.
The thing about the armour is, you notice that you've got 3 main kind of characters in proper armour, and then you've got the guys in the helmets and the less armour. That's the cheaper option because they can afford to have 3 main characters, like having 3 Cybermen kind of idea. You know what I mean? It's like that, yeah. And so it's obviously the budget restraints couldn't do the technological.
I think they went to Angels, Paul.
They may have done, yeah, probably, yeah.
Picked up some lovely props from King Arthur or Henry VIII or something like that, you know, because it is a mixed match of style. The ones on the right do look like androids, though, and I think that's the whole point of those, isn't it?
That's just Anselin.
Yeah.
It's only Anselin that's in that, so the rest of it must just be stock.
Yeah.
Mummy pays well for the armory.
I have to say, there's something about Battlefield. And it's in the picture there. I think the TARDIS looks fantastic in Battlefield.
So
it stands out so well. I know it's had a new paint, but I just think it looks amazing.
When it arrives first conveniently next to the sign, it's beautifully done. It's a lovely shot. Yeah,
really good shot. It's good to see you all. Thanks for joining. If you're new to the channel, please give us a subscription. It's free to do that. And then give us a like, give us a thumbs up as well. Good to see you. If you aren't new to the channel, welcome back to us talking about proper Doctor Who and other things that are on the way for you as well. Headlines on Sundays, don't forget, if you're looking for headlines. But yeah, lots coming up for you. John Mason's with us saying, McCoy was my least favourite by a long way. Fair enough.
Ooh.
Fair enough.
I think at the time, I remember friends of mine not liking him and thinking he was a bit meh, but I liked him. I really want him.
I think Time in the Rani has a lot to answer for on that front.
Probably,
oh yeah, starting up badly. Yeah.
I think not so much him, but the story. That's the thing. I think McCoy, his comic moments in Time in the Rani are really nice and quite sweet. And he does comedy really well. We've said that already, but he's not so good on the gravitas as much. You know what I mean?
But by the time you get to season 26 and he's doing it serious,
yeah.
There are comic moments, obviously, but overall, it's a much more serious performance. And this is where he's really got hold of the character.
You see it creeping in with Remembrance, don't you? And definitely in Happiness Patrol to an extent, and then it goes through. But here he's just so comfortable. And
I'd love to see him get a 4th season. That would be superb.
I've said it before. It's a shame we didn't get that 4th. His last one, it would have been up there. Simon Mills saying, talking about proper Doctor Who, I was 5 when watching this. Great memories. McCoy is my favourite Doctor. He got me into Who. The Destroyer still sticks into mind. What design.
Yeah.
And Mark Milford saying something I haven't heard before. Cartmel's unused ideas hints that Excalibur was a Time Lord weapon. Now, I'm actually very, very happy they didn't go down that route because that's too much. Another one.
It was in the Omega arsenal, if you pardon the expression. So.
Well, yeah, with the hand of Omega and everything else.
Exactly. Yes,
the Nemesis. Then I couldn't be.
Then it would have been too much like season 25.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, isn't it? Really? Yeah. Yeah. Realistically, lots of you in the chat with us tonight. Thank you very, very much. Nice to see you all. Here's Julianne. Hello, Julianne. A little niggle. Just how far or long was the brig traveling on that helicopter? He's asleep at one point. That needed an edit.
Yes.
Now, this is what your lad pointed out as well, Phil, wasn't it?
He did. He said to me, "Are they still in that helicopter?" It's like, would have been quicker to drive.
And you pointed out what they bloody paid for it, so they were using it.
Yeah. Paid for a bloody helicopter. We'll have an helicopter. That and Mordrin laughing.
That goes on about
uncomfortably long.
I really felt sorry for the actor laughing all that.
Oh, I know.
Really painful for him. Yeah.
You can see when actors have to do that. You can
see in the eyes go, "Come on, can I stop?
One cold cut." Yeah.
That's how they made it 4 episodes out of 3. An epic helicopter ride and an awful lot of land.
The padding bit, yeah. I'm always chuffed when you get a helicopter in Doctor Who anyway. It always looks really expensive when they have one, doesn't it? You know?
Yeah. The shot of it coming down is really good. Like, I don't know how they managed, obviously it's like a smoke canister attached to it, but the way they're coming down just towards the trees, and obviously don't show it crashing, but
well, going down's easy.
That's what she said, wasn't it?
I know. Little quote.
Yeah.
I love the Brigadier's reaction when he when he kind of jump out and he kind of like, I'm enjoying this. Yeah, I'm in this basically.
Yeah.
The lovely
situation's normal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not doing the gardening anymore. This is much more exciting.
I know, considering he started the story in a garden centre, which I never expected ever.
Yeah.
In fact, it took me by surprise again this time round when I watched it because I'd forgotten that. I was like, "Oh my god, the garden centre!" There's
one thing about the brig I really like is that I'm glad they got Doris back after that lovely moment in Planet of Spiders, and they continued that and brought Doris into this. It was lovely,
Yeah, that must have been a John thing, surely.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Can I just say, you can tell how young Emilio is because he said it's better than being in a garden centre. When you reach 40, going to a garden centre is an absolute.
I love going
to a garden centre or going to a hardware store.
I love it. Me and my missus, we love going to garden centres. There's a good cafe. Get some stuff for the garden.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You need a good cafe.
Nature, can't beat it. Can't beat a time with nature.
It's a nice place to have a scone, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Everybody outside the UK at this point is thinking, what the hell are they talking about? Jerry Attrick is saying...
Jam or cream first. We'll work that one.
Jerry Attrick, we know who you are. Yes, we know who you are. I'll spring to the Seventh Doctor's defence. He's my second favourite after Tom Baker. I loved how dark he got at points during his run. And Andrew Parker is saying to us, McCoy always had a script in his coat pocket. That's true. That's very, very true. Stephen Genie Frisk saying, the Brigadier, Unit, Merlin, and King Arthur, and G. Marsh. What's not to love?
Amen.
It's a good point, actually, in hindsight. I don't know what my 19-year-old self was expecting, but something else. And Heretic, thank you so much for your super chat. My earliest ever memory is watching Remembrance Part 1. Oh, that's not bad to start with, then.
Good on.
That's the great thing about our shows, isn't it? You go away after a little while thinking, oh my god, I've got to retire. Lex, thank you for your super chat. Really like McCoy. He really grows on you. Shame he didn't get the 4th and 5th series. I wonder what stories would have been. Well, we sort of know what the outlay was, the 4th series, wouldn't it? Would have introduced a new companion, the Safe.
Yeah, the Safe Cracker catch. I like that idea. With her dad, like a gangland boss or something like that.
Which had the Ice Warriors in it as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Series 27. And it would have had a regeneration, because allegedly one of the stories I heard is that the 7th Doctor, through his manipulations and his plans, drove himself insane, therefore triggering a regeneration at the end.
And then we got Richard Griffith. That was the next one. Yeah.
I think, John.
I like that part of the 7th Doctor, the manipulation. I know, and is it the Curse of Fenric where he really manipulates Ace? Which is, I think, if I remember correctly, which is great. And I think I know they were trying to lean into that, and the Cartmel master plan would, to really show that the Doctor is obviously more than what he seems. Let's say, I like the fact that it showed that the Doctor is willing to go there, A, because he's an alien, but B, you know, there's more. He's always thinking ahead, right? He's always ahead of the game, and I think he does. Sylvester taps in a little bit to kind of Troughton kind of jokey playfulness, almost like pretend, and actually there's more going on underneath, which I think makes the Doctor such an interesting character.
You get a hint of that because it's a future version of the Doctor, which could be this incarnation, could be another incarnation, etc., or it could be a past incarnation, but something future in terms of timeline. So you get the idea that the Doctor, as Merlin, has set up this situation in terms of the ship under the lake, and put those clues in for how to get into the ship, and put these things in place. So it's starting to come through in this to a certain extent. But yeah, you're right, Emilio. It's really Curse of Fenric, where it really is Doctor Manipulator to the max.
And Ghostlight.
Yeah,
Ghostlight.
But that's largely to his decision of where to park the TARDIS.
Yeah, I'll just take Ace back to the thing that scared her the most.
Yeah.
There's an interesting comment here from the Jamie 9526. What do you think of this? He flew from home to London to Geneva, maybe, and then to Carbury, to be fair. Now, I'd forgotten about the Geneva bit after all these years.
Did he go to
goes to London.
Geneva?
No, he goes to London.
Yeah, I think he gets he talks to Geneva or something, but I think he goes to London.
It's an interesting idea, though.
The initial phone call is from Geneva.
The
The Secretary General in Geneva, and then he goes to London because they mentioned the heliport, and then he has to sign all the forms and whatever. Sounds very modern. And then they go to Carbury. So
yeah. I mean, I always thought, hang on a minute, it didn't make sense to me either. Everybody and the Jamie 9526 as well, because I just thought, hang on a minute, surely he lives in Kent.
But maybe he stopped off for a couple of pints, no Nick Courtney, probably.
Yeah. Because to have a house that big in old Britain, it must have been Kent, surely, or something like that.
Surrey or something.
It's a lovely
Surrey.
house.
Yeah, it looked like Surrey. It gave me, because it had the old kind of Tudor kind of building.
Yes,
it would have been. Surrey full of those kind of buildings. So yeah.
I wonder if it's been there or if it's been demolished to make way for something like HS2 or something like that. Like much of England, to be quite honest. Not that we see anything of it. Anyway, that's another show.
That's all where I live, JT, in Buckinghamshire. Literally like 15 minutes, HS2 all going on.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? Absolutely terrible. A lot of you are reminding us that Bessie, of course, is in this, which we do know as well. And it was her last appearance in the show as well. It was more or less everybody's, Nick's as well, wasn't it?
No, not strictly true.
Oh, stop it. We're not going to 1993 at this particular point. McCoy was the right
canon.
Yeah, it's canon. No, yeah.
That's only if you consider that last rubbish, and I don't. Hashtag is not Gatwer is not the Doctor.
But based on the Brigadier's timeline, it's already happened. That was when he met the Sixth Doctor, you see, just to clarify that. So.
What have we got here? McCoy was the right Doctor at the wrong time, but I love his era now. It's magical, says Ian Scales. Now, Ian, that's an interesting point, guys, because I'm hearing an awful lot from people now, i.e. Whittaker and Gatwer fans, who are saying, oh, I can't wait till this era in the next few years becomes reevaluated, just like the McCoy era does. The problem for me for that is it's not going to happen.
No.
Because this thing, I mean, original 26-year Doctor Who, including McCann, it's like we're saying to Phil, his lads come into this now, and because it has that timeless quality, you can watch it any time at any age, right? So here we are in 2025. Phil, how old is Teddy?
10.
Right.
Think about that.
And he's discovered this, and the story has taken him in. So he sat down to watch it, which is fantastic.
It's a great age to be there. Yeah, definitely.
But anything from Rose onward is set in the day it was broadcast. So Rose is 2005, and it's very clearly 2005, and that Britain is now gone.
We started watching Rose, and it looks super dated.
Yeah,
But it doesn't even look 2005. It looks like 1990 something. It looks older than it is, I think.
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? Even the Moffat era, and I can't speak for the Chibnall era, you guys have to tell me this, was set on the year it was broadcast. They did the same thing with Gatwa, more or less. Whereas here we've got, something for Battlefield. It's familiar, but out of kilt. I mean, I always think this could be a parallel Earth as well. It might not necessarily be ours, because it's not quite right. The King, for example, was not around in 1997.
Yeah.
So it's all
I think Survival's the only one that's contemporary, isn't it? The rest are all different time periods, aren't they? So,
and again, the feeling between Survival and Battlefield, considering there's only two stories in the middle, it's totally different.
Yeah.
So this could be more of a fantastical thing, you know?
You mentioned earlier about the sort of timeline and where does this sit, but even watching it today, I felt it still could be a couple of years in the future from where I am now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the genius of of not dating something, Russell, because you're just pitching it slightly further forward with some particular ideas, whether it's the technology you use, lines about a £5 piece and all that sort of stuff. It's just that little bit ahead of where we are now, basically, no matter when you watch it.
Yeah. I guess maybe for the third tour, because a lot of the finale kind of followed on to each other in terms of human beings will remember this, etc. The planets in the sky happened after the day. I can chronologically, it's easier. I imagine it's easier to follow if you just date in 1 year. But I think it could have been a little bit more inventive, where they've gone, this happened in 2008, and this happens in 2011, or etc. It will leave a few more gaps, or as you say.
McCoy just says that one line. Remember, we're in the future. That's a lovely line. That says it all. That's all you need.
But it's also like the Pertwee stories, as Uncle Terry said, 5 minutes in your future. It was never in the show. But he told that to us as fans at a convention. I heard him at 2 conventions saying it's 5 minutes in the future, which was his very clever way of getting out of that bloody question that certain people would ask him. When are these stories set, Terrence? 5 minutes in your future. Move on.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But I loved it. I thought it was genius. Needs the script.
What about you at dating? Yeah.
Eventually, somebody would say that. Oh, you're dating. We'd all go, sit down.
Well, they must have learned from the 10th Planet, because that was set in 1986.
Yeah.
And then when you get, in 66, they wouldn't have imagined that the show would have been going 20 years later.
Yeah.
But once you get to that point, you're thinking, okay, the thing that we did in 66 doesn't look like anything that we've got now. So let's not do that anymore and not put any dates on stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, because when it catches up with itself, that's the thing, isn't it? It always tickles me with the end of the world and Astrid's pilot license on the back, 2018 or something. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when you had the London 2012 Olympics, which was done in 2006. And so you've got none of that terrible logo anywhere at all. Whereas all of us that lived through 2012 saw that thing everywhere.
Yeah. But it puts, this story actually illustrates my point that I've been saying for ages, that Doctor Who 63 to 89, excuse me, is going to last the test of time, whereas Doctor Who 2005 to 2025 will not, because it won't be accessible to new generations, because that's set in 2005, that's set in 2008, that's set in 2010, that's set in 2021, or whatever it's going to be, and it doesn't look anything like it. That's the whole problem with making it a soap opera, whereas Battlefield does it in a lovely way, and Doctor Who does it in a lovely way, in that you just don't know when it is, and I quite like that, unless it's a historical one like Remembrance, where it's so definitely 1963 and they've done it right. It's absolutely fantastic, and I love the way that Teddy's, as a 10-year-old, has just come in nonchalantly, seen this thing and gone, and do what kids do.
Was that the first McCoy you'd seen, Phil, or had you seen other McCoys?
No, McCoy's his favourite, so he loves the Happiness Patrol.
Yeah.
He loves that. And we've seen Remembrance as well.
Yeah. I mean, a 10-year-old loving Happiness Patrol Who viewers, isn't that amazing? And all these years later, again, amazing. Peter Venkman fan site said McCoy era was at least the Doctor, those jokers, i.e., what they called, Gatwa and the woman. What's the name? Whittaker. Sorry. Didn't watch it so much. Yeah, that's it. Marie UK saying that's wishful thinking from a bunch of fools. They are saying it though, Marie. Have you seen it? These two areas are going to mature. Everybody will love them again in the future. No, crap is crap. even in the future, crap is going to be. And I can say that if there are any Doctor Who fans in the future, they're going to look back there and still say that's bloody awful because there's no talent in it. There's no story in it, whereas there are with proper ones.
Do you remember in the scene 26, people saying how complicated Doctor Who was getting at that stage? GT, when you were watching. Yeah,
I do vaguely. I think that was because of Ghostlight, though, which is not complicated. Yeah. And one day we will come back here and I'll give you a sermon on what it's about. It's dead easy. It's not complicated at all. This is more complicated than Buddy Ghostlight because you're dealing with a future incarnation of the Doctor. You know, who no one's going to see, and we haven't seen yet, thankfully. Rory and Cheryl and Friends too. It is still Doctor Who, unlike the last two series. John Griffiths, thank you. Hawkwind was the rumoured group for the music score. Of course it was. Hawkwind. And they were massive. And John, I was right at the time in 1989 thinking you'll never get them because they were huge, weren't they? Very powerful music as well. A film of something like this is Doctor Who. Yes, please bring it on. Yeah. Let's have a look at this. Woodhouse122 saying you'd have to be a rocket artist to afford a house like the Brigadier's. Better than his wooden hut in Mordred Undead. Yeah. Gatwin Zero will age like milk, says Andrew Parker. And Cody W1 has said to us, there's no chance of that. Yeah. We've also got Gavin coming here. Hello, Gavin Graham. I did the double take recently when the Night Commander showed up as a director for the next season of Rings of Power. Chances that Stefan Schwartz got to work with the script beating Battlefield? Slim. Rings of Power. Oh, dear. Really? Oh, dear. I've heard some stuff about that. What else we got? Cody is saying to us Moffat's is less dated.
Yeah,
possibly. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't revisit it often, but yeah, okay. And Geriatric is saying the writer Ben A said it was set in the near future but didn't specify exactly when, and that's the beauty of it. If you like a lot of you have confirmed, it's 1997 in the book, put there by Mark Platt for whatever reason. Don't have to take that though, can you? The massive car phones date Battlefield, said Mudcrab. That's why you could be in an alternative as well. I mean, it is mentioned, isn't it? The Doctor does say there's a parallel dimension at work here. It doesn't mean that he hasn't necessarily slipped in there.
Yeah, it doesn't say which one is which. Yeah.
Could be satellite phones. They're chunky, aren't they?
What were they exactly? I'm too young to know.
Like satellite phones now, because you don't need like a mobile network or whatever, because don't they broadcast to space? I'm pretty sure I've seen Steve Backshall with one on the Deadly 60. What's his kids' TV?
There's a line from Peter Walmsley where he comes into the bar asking to use the phone because the one in his car isn't working.
Yes.
Implying that phones in cars was like standard.
Yeah.
And now obviously we're not allowed to use them because
we're not. No.
It can be dangerous and illegal.
Yeah. And yet
we never mentioned the hands-free, did he? To be honest, so maybe
no.
do that.
No. We do have people with mobile phones now, don't we, in cars and stuff, which really winds me up when they're going around a roundabout when Kids Got Tasted, Heretic, yes. Mark A. Wright, what does the panel think of the later re-edit? I thought it added quite a bit to the overall flow. Go on then. Yeah, because that was Rose's question. Why are there two discs on Battlefield? Because there's two versions, isn't there, gentlemen? Does anyone want to tell Rose what's going on there?
3 if you've got a Blu-ray set.
Yeah. Do you want to explain to Rose?
So there's obviously the original broadcast version that went out in 1989. That is slightly condensed down, even though part 4 is too long. You know, it like being extended because it's a weird situation where they had it was meant to be written as a 3-parter, then extended out to 4 parts, and then they filmed more material than they could actually fit into 4 episodes. So it's slightly weird. This is the sort of late McCoy era where you have lots of additional material that's floating around. So by the time the VHS release came out in, I think, around 97, 98, somewhere around there. Because it was post the TV, the TV movie, wasn't it? They managed to put some of those additional scenes back in. They had previously featured on the More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS documentary and stuff like that. And when it then came up for release for DVD, there's the a sort of new special edition version created for that, which has slightly better grading, I think, on the picture, which really helps. And then finally, once you've got the Blu-ray release, there's the transmitted version, there's the VHS version, and then there's the special edition version. So there's multiple different versions of it. I personally quite like all the additional little bits, where the Brigadier meets Ace for the first time, and there's that bit of sort of sparring because the Brig predates her and has this longer history, and feels like he knows the Doctor better than Ace does, but Ace feels responsible for looking after him, etc.
She's just jealous. It's pure jealousy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. So like I love those little bits I've mentioned earlier when Walmsley goes off on his Tennyson monologues and stuff like that, which is marvelous. So yeah, I really like the re-edits. I think things like the grading of it is better, and I think that helps as well. Yeah. Hopefully I've summarised that up reasonably.
Mark's adding to his point here. What does the panel think of the later re-edit? I thought it added quite a bit to the overall flow. Mark's also adding, but the show lacks scale for me originally. A couple of knights randomly starting fights in a village repeatedly just didn't seem credible. If this was remade today, it would be truly epic. I think it would. I think it would have to have extra bits to the script to tighten the script as well to make it into a TV movie or something. But I think it could still work. I think Ben was onto something, guys.
The special edition on the Blu-ray though, that's got extra special effects and stuff, isn't it? As well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they've tweaked some of the effects.
I've not seen the special edition one since the collection set came out, and that was like second or third one, wasn't it? That came out, I think.
It was fairly early, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I can't really remember because I only got a chance to watch Battlefield on the iPlayer, like I said, just today, so recently. So that's the first time I watched it since they came out in the collection. So,
Phil and Amelia, have you watched all the versions, or which ones have you watched and stuck with?
I mean, I would have watched
version I've watched. I don't know which one I've watched. I only watched the one that's on iPlayer and BritBox. Sorry, Phil.
So you watched iPlayer, right? Okay, so you've watched the original version, I would take it. Okay.
Yeah,
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Phil.
So I've seen on video, and is it a special edition on DVD?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's some new effects on it, isn't there? And then I watched iPlayer on Monday, and I'm not sure what version that is because
that must be the transmitted version. I
think broadcast version. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Like I said, I'm surprised some of it wasn't cut for PC reasons, but yeah.
Unless they've just forgotten about it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, now you've raised it, they'll go back
be
in.
cut now.
Yeah.
I'll be a warning before it.
Yeah.
As I say, I'm glad there isn't there because it shows where we were at because we just didn't talk like that. And a lot of these people running around today assume that everybody of our age, sort of from the 40s into the 50s onwards are isphobes and not, and we're not. We were absolutely fine and dandy until you lot came along with your labels. Stephen O'Neill is saying to us, yes, in the modern Who, they put the year in the caption at the beginning. Like you say, it dates it.
And the place, just so you hadn't worked out for yourself.
London. And Steve Braddock is saying to us, no, Gatwa and Whittaker will not be revered in the same way as the McCoy era, because McCoy's era is proper Doctor Who with an excellent Doctor. Steve Hindley is saying to us, I'm still waiting for the £5 piece. Well, Steve, they're out there. Because every now and then the £5 piece does come along. It's not in general circulation, but you can get them.
The collector's coin,
the collector's coin, the £5 pieces. And in my eyes, just to put it to you, Steve, it would be the typical of the Doctor to have the Paddington one, wouldn't it? Geriatric is saying to us, oh my God, Hawkwind and Doctor Who, a match made in the heavens. Such a shame it didn't happen. Shame, said Steve Hindley. And Dalek Lives Matter, I've seen Hawkwind a few times. Knowing what they're like for being non-committal, I don't think they'd have completed the soundtrack. There's no way they would have been able to afford them either. Would have, Helicopter and Hawkwind?
That's where we got Kev McCulloch, you see. So because the helicopter pushed him out the budget, probably. So
Ian Scale saying the re-edit was great, but they kept in Mordred's weird extended laughter.
Did they extend it? And now 3 minutes extra Mordred laughing.
It's a shame because it is.
You can see he's really struggling with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, exactly that.
Yeah.
Steve Hindley saying, I don't like the Ace Brig jealousy. I think that's possibly one of the reasons it was cut out. Because it's different, isn't it? Usually when the Brig meet, when he met Tegan and Nyssa, that was one thing, you know, all the companions the Doctor had between Liz.
And there's also that kind of the Brig being slightly sexist. You're the latest one, all that kind of stuff, isn't it? All that stuff in it, you know?
Yeah,
What's wrong with that line?
I personally don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I think that's probably why they took it out, you know?
No, but you
sounds like it's a bit too close to the Rose one. The Rose Sarah Jane, which everybody did like, the kind of jealousy.
Well, get you, Tiger. Yeah, that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the context of the story is that the Brigadier is the one that's had to save the Doctor from the creature in the ship.
Yeah.
Not Ace, and Ace is probably feeling, oh, I got myself into trouble and wasn't there to save the Doctor, and now this other guy's shown up. So like, it does kind of fit within the narrative. But I can see, you know, if you're trimming for time, then yeah, you know, it's nice for us to look back on now, and I really like it.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
for the purposes of getting the story to move along quicker, then yeah,
You had to be true. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
That funny scene, isn't there, where basically the ship being blown up, and at the end she's just like jumping up and down, and you've got the Brig going, yeah, like, you know, calm down.
Yeah, what's that Nick Courtney or someone doubling from? I always thought it didn't seem like Nick Courtney's body language. It's really weird, you know.
I wish they'd shown his face reaction, but I could just imagine him going like okay, love, calm down.
Let's have a look from Noodle Arms here. It's funny that the two writers on the Behind the Sofa for season 26 say how great the stories are, but never to some inspiration. That part, I like Behind the Sofa. I just don't like it when they get people from the modern series looking at it. And this one I don't like, because this was Pete McTeague, and what's the name? I can't remember what the other author's name is. I don't like it. It just doesn't. I don't know why I can't put my finger why I don't like this. I don't mind if it's somebody like Janet Fielding or Katie or Fraser or whomever watching episodes that they're not involved with. I quite like to see their reaction, but when it's these two, I just thought, get off. You know, there's something about it I just can't relate to. I can't put my finger on it. I just don't like it. What do you guys think of that?
Never watched one, so I couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay.
I sometimes like, it depends what they say. Sometimes eras have criticised better eras than them. I think I get a bit frustrated if someone says from the 80s that season 7 was a bit rubbish. I don't like that. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, you know?
I think it's because they're probably putting a modern take on something written in the late 80s.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Which is you know,
you can't compare it, can you really?
Yeah, it's different times and different ways of storytelling and different things on television at the time. So
interesting. It's interesting. I don't know, but I didn't like that bit. I don't mind the other ones. I quite liked Annette looking at this and criticizing the theme tune. I'm right with you there. I still don't like that McCoy theme tune. I think it's bloody awful.
It's better than most of Murray's versions, isn't it? You know,
I love it. It feels 80s.
I like it.
That's the problem, though, and I don't think I understand why he had to get rid of the Howl. Well, he didn't have to, but he did, and then he did Dominic, and then he got rid of Dominic's, and then he came in with this sort of Top of the Pops version. But
I don't think it sounds like anything else. It's got its own. It's a unique, odd, very strange sounds that come together to make this theme tune that you like. I love it.
The wing.
It's not any real gravitas to it. I think that's my problem with it. But
I think if it had been the original theme tune for this one, or the Tom Baker theme one, rather, for this story, I think it would have worked a hell of a lot better.
With the titles as well, I think the titles. I don't mind the title sequence until they get to the logo, and I loathe that logo with a vengeance. But
I mean, I get a lot of nostalgia from it, so it'd be interesting, as you know. And this is me watching it in '93. So whether you guys, your nostalgia is for the 70s, understandably so, whereas mine is obviously shifted further away from it. So,
well, wait till we review the Sea Devils. I watched that when I was a kid, so we'll see what happens.
That was the first. That was my first story.
Oh,
Rory
fantastic!
and
Love it.
Cheryl and friends
Yeah.
too are just saying to me here, the theme tune was of its time, JT. And Cody W1 is saying, I love the theme. Alfie Jack, the logo was absolute crap. It looked terrible on Doctor Who magazine. They didn't know what to do with that logo, did they? They had to stick a disc behind it. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Because it was
yeah.
just so silly. Stephen O'Neill, Battlefield was repeated on BBC Two on consecutive Fridays between April and May 1993. I do remember it being on because I remember seeing the first episode, but it was a Friday.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to stay in on 1993 on a Friday night. I was off. See
It's
you
about
later.
10 to 7, so yeah, you'll be on your way out.
Yeah,
As,
yeah. No
as-
chance of thing then.
As someone who can't say I had nostalgia for Classic Who because I wasn't alive for it. I would
Here
definitely.
we go again.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just rubbing it in. I would definitely say that the 70s title, the Pertwee, Tom Baker titles, they, for me as a modern Who viewer, I think those are the best titles. I like obviously the Hartnell one for for it being the first one, and it's the theme tune. But I don't like the 80s one. It's just overly cheesy. It comes across as tacky. You just think immediately very 80s basically.
Yeah.
And that's not what it should. That's not what it should do. I'd even argue that even at least the 2005 titles, you don't immediately think 2005 when I hear the theme tune, or but the 80s one just screams 80s, and that's my problem with it.
I think changing the theme tune sort of drastically was a bit of a mistake for me as a fan at the time. I think the Peter Howell version was a good version that of didn't quite top the Delia Derbyshire version, but it's got more power to it. But the Dominic one and this one's not as powerful as the Peter Howell version.
Well, you couldn't beat the Radiophonic Workshop, could you? Really? With respect to Dominic and Kev, you couldn't. I mean, even what's his name, Murray Gold hasn't for me.
Yeah.
I do think the McCoy logo though brings it up to date. I know it is really 80s, but it does kind of say that's all old 60s and 70s stuff. Check out this new 80s kind of wash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having said that though, Phil, they brought the Pertwee logo back from McGann, and they bought the Tom Baker, John Pertwee logo back for this era. So they can't
and
be
look
that
what
good,
happened to them.
I know.
Validated.
I think Gatwa's era would have looked a lot better with the McCoy logo. Let's put it that way. Stephen Praddock is saying to us, Ben Aronovich used to live next door to me in 2008. He told me he wanted giant robot knights, but there was no budget for his imagination. He was always disappointed with that. I do remember seeing him on some stage somewhere in the past, being very disappointed, but good humoured about Battlefield. He wanted to talk more about Remembrance than he did Battlefield, for understandable reasons. So yeah, I got the impression he wasn't too happy at all, was it? Rose is back with us here saying, I have season 26 on Blu-ray. I'm getting excited about watching the bonus disc, but thank you for explaining, but I didn't see any difference. That's fine. Alfie's saying to us, this is the controversial opinion, good, but never liked Ace. I never found it interesting and poorly acted. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
She's not good. She's not that good in this story. I will be honest. I think there's one scene where they're in the circle and they're doing basically, the two girls start going at each other. They get really vicious. I thought that was really, really well played. But I think a lot of the time she comes in this episode in particular. She comes across overly. I know she's meant to be young, but overly childish. Boom, and it just grates on me.
She's lumbered with all that Gordon Bennett stuff and Wicked and all that kind of stuff, which is really unfortunate, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a shame, really, because when we meet Ace at Iceworld, she's 16, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she's out of it because she's been whipped in a time storm. Story arc, by the way, coming up in the 80s. That was a shocker. But I mean, there she is. So she's out of kilt with what's going on Earth in a sense, right? But she's not really allowed to grow, is she? When you see what happens to her in the New Adventures, which is absolutely awful in my eyes.
Yeah.
But you do see her mature. She gets rid of all that very dated. Because I didn't know anyone that was running around going, with that sort of.
Is that how they speak in Iceworld? Then is that where she got from?
Unless it was. I mean, Perivale back then was quite. Was it quite nice? I don't know. Was anybody living in Perivale in the late 80s? I don't know. We've got Jason Parker saying to us as well. Sorry, Emilio. Graham Harper had been approached to direct it. I remember, though. I remember hearing that back in the day. You're right, Jason. I think the story has a working title of Storm on Avalon, I think it was, wasn't it? Avalon. And I remember Battlefield being released on VHS in 1998. It was a year before the arrival of Bog Fanish. Was it that close? Wow. But I remember, yes, Storm over Avalon, which I preferred that title personally in hindsight. Go on, Emilio, what were we saying?
Well, I was just going to say with Ace, I think when she works better is her relationship with the Doctor. I think the two have great chemistry, and the fact that she looked up to him as a professor, and the kind of don't use weapons versus they have a different way of doing things. I think it creates a nice bit of natural conflict slightly between the two characters, which I think is really, really good. And I think Ace also works really well when you start delving into her family backstory a little bit and her reactions, and the fact that she quite emotionally closed off to it. I think creates I think a lot of people say Ace was the kind of precursor for Rose, basically, in terms of you delve a little bit more into the family background. But I think she handled, when she goes into those scenes and you get a hint of that, I think she does it really well, Sophie Aldred. I just think, as you guys are saying, I think she's just let down by the slightly clunky dialogue, and her acting of it can be a little bit annoying, as I said.
It's a shame, really, Emilio, because Ace, Brigadier, Ace is one of the most developed, in a sense, characters of the 80s. She actually has, from the moment she appears in Dragonfire, she actually has that particular arc. She's one of the strongest we get of the 80s companions, because she's not just the companion. She actually becomes, where Rose would take over years later, she becomes the second lead. What were you going to say, Brigadier?
Well, I think it's who she's paired with. So in other stories where she's paired with, Mike in Remembrance, he's an older person. I think because she's paired with Xiao Yun, and similar to how she's paired with Lindsay Dunlop's character in Happiness Patrol, I think that kind of brings down the performance a little bit. So the character, as you mentioned earlier, is meant to be, just a teenager. And so that teenage element comes out a bit more. The scene at the end of part 1 where she's talking to Xiao Yun about how she blows up the art room and stuff like that. There's that sort of teenage energy to it. And I think that's because of who she's telling. Whereas if she'd been telling that to Peter Walmsley, absolutely would have been completely different. So I think, I've never asked Sophie about this actually, but the way her performance is related to the people around her. When you've got, as I say, Remembrance, where you've got a lot of, more older people. You've got, Group Captain Gilmore and the sort of countermeasures team as they used to be. They're more mature, and so she has to be a bit more mature in that story. Whereas this one, when she's paired with Xiao Yun and it is a bit more fantastical, then maybe that changes her performance. But we've pointed out, the manipulation by Morgaine, that's really well played in my book.
Yeah, that is well played. Yeah.
It's a great scene, and again, Jean Marsh leads that scene beautifully, and and Sophie sort of follows the lead, quite rightly, and so she sees what Jean's doing and reacts to it, and it's very natural reaction. I think what Sophie's doing there to Jean Marsh's wonderful performance, and the way that Sophie plays Ace at this point, it is quite powerful. Even though she calls Excalibur the paper knife and all this sort of stuff, it's very come and get those then, because she's so confident in the Doctor that she knows she's safe, so she's very confident with it, isn't it?
But both her and McCoy have a great rapport with each other, don't they? And that really comes across as well, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, two really good, fleshed out companions, the Seventh Doctor and Ace. Very good characters. The Towns of Wayne Chang is saying to us here, when it comes to the behind the sofa, everybody, it seems sacrilegious that critiquing classic Who whilst at the same time ruining the modern era and by extension the classic series may be. But then Mudcrap points out that Pete McTee was a massive Seventh Doctor fan back in the day, so I guess he pushed hard to do the behind the sofa thing. Yeah, I mean, they all know each other, don't they? So they would have known
Well, he works on the collection set anyway, doesn't he? So he's connected to it. So
I suppose, yes, we just sat there.
There's all the trailers, didn't he? So yeah.
Who's the other woman though? I can't remember who she is. But very strange to have her there. The music for me is truly awful, says Mark A. Wright. The wonderful fat analog synths of the early 80s are given way to plastic digital synths. They just sound so thin. And don't get me started on that title sequence. we won't. We won't be fine. We won't be fine.
They could have done something more creative with the music, I feel, because I think they could have tried to tie in a bit more medieval style music with the modern landscape again to fit into the kind of theme and setting of the episode and the backstory. I think there could have been more done with that than using like what felt very much like contemporary music being shoved in.
Yeah, I didn't like the music in 1989, and I still don't like it today, I have to say. Stephen O'Neill is saying, I prefer the Tom Baker opening title sequence and that theme tune, while Simon Mills is saying, I loved McCoy opening. It's one of the best one. The TARDIS spinning through the galaxy to a serious, then fun Doctor was great as a kid. See,
I'm not sure with the wink, though. When he winks, that's a bit...
I like the wink as
I like
well.
that. Yeah,
It's like, I'm your friend, I'm serious, but I'm your mate.
Yeah, but they
It's
wanted
Colin. Easy, isn't it?
They wanted Colin to do that originally as well in
Yeah.
his title sequence, and John said no. For some reason, John took it out. But you can see the pictures to this day around and about where there's Colin with the winking. So yeah, it shows though, isn't it? So we had a couple of people with Simon there as a kid, and I wasn't. So the difference there.
I think there are elements of the title sequence I talk about, like that the TARDIS bit and the asteroids and stuff is quite nice. But I think it doesn't. It's a bit. It doesn't gel. There's a bits that kind of stick out from you. That's the problem, you know.
JT, I've looked it up.
Sorry,
I've looked it up. It's Joy Wilkinson who wrote.
Well done.
The Witchfinders. Whittaker episode, which you won't have seen.
She wrote what?
The Witchfinders, the one with Alan Cumming as James.
James the
First. For the Jodie Whittaker.
I fell asleep watching that episode, I have to say.
Right.
So,
Real mark of quality.
That's it. Yeah.
Full fell asleep.
It's good for a cat. That's always good. 10 out of 10.
I found the winking to kind of take the seriousness out. It just makes it a little bit too camp, in my opinion.
I think that's what I like about it. The fact that it's the Doctor, but you know what? We're going to have a laugh. It's kind of, I don't know, reassuring. It drags me in. I want to be there. I want to travel with him because he's going to be a bit more fun.
It's also
berated and strangled by Colin.
Everyone could have.
I thought you'd enjoyed that though.
Wow, pay good money for it.
There are lots of you joining us in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you all. I want to get on to the next point. Because I want to talk a little bit more about this chap. So here we go. Nick Courtney arrives in this one. I remember at the time being really, really excited that Nick was coming back into Doctor Who, and he was going to get to meet the Seventh Doctor, which was the big thing for fans at the time. Never mind the Daleks, you had to have the Brig coming along at some point as well. It's good to see him. He doesn't disappoint, I don't think, at all here. He's still right back into character, isn't he?
He's always worth every penny. Superb in this, he really is.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a hint of this, though, that he was going to be bumped off? Because there's an air of that kind of like, I'm coming back. Are you really coming back? No, maybe not. But then they chickened out, which I'm glad they didn't kill him off because he's such a great character, you know.
Yeah, if you don't know the big story about this, at the time there were all these rumors going off that the Brig was to be bumped off during this particular story. JNT had sort of hinted about it as well because you know what he was like, everybody. It's anything to get everybody watching. So I remember watching Battlefield with a sense of apprehension towards part 4.
Yeah.
The reason it didn't go ahead, even though Nick had signed it off, John had signed it off, Andrew Cartmel had signed it off, everybody was okay with this. It's because apparently, again, from his convention appearance I was asked, Ben couldn't go through with this. Chickened out. He said, I can't, I'm not being responsible for this. And I'm glad they didn't, because in that story, it would have been a shallow end.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was Ben's idea. I think someone had told him to put it in and he couldn't do it.
It was John.
Yeah.
I honestly think it was John who went to Nick first and said, do you mind if we bump you off in this? Probably for some sort of dramatic thing, because he hadn't done it since 1982.
But yeah, pulling out the rehearsal script, it's not in there. He's there in the final scene, so I don't think it was ever written.
Well,
I like the moment when the doctor says you're supposed to die in bed, then he comes to again. That's a lovely moment, isn't it?
Yes. But it's that point when I realised they're not going ahead with that because, of course, poor good old Nick was breathing.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to not breathe.
But you know what I mean? If he was playing dead,
yeah,
he would.
It's because he's a chunky fellow in this episode, to be fair. But
it does seem though that it was kind of written for him to be killed off. I think the whole, the whole setup. That he basically in called retirement, he being pulled back into things. There's a whole, there's a real setup around a character around duty and long service. It would have. I mean, I'm glad they didn't, and obviously, the last appearance was in the Sarah Jane Adventures. But it would. I still think had they done it with him saving the Doctor's life, that would have been quite well set up in the episode, and it would have been quite fitting to his character. Of course, I'm so glad they didn't because I love Courtney, but I think it still would have worked. I think.
Do you think so? So I don't think Battlefield would have been the great one to do it because it was not quite where it should have been.
I think it would have worked had this remained a 3-parter. I think where that scene happens in episode 4, I don't know where you'd go from there. Do you know? Because that's the bit you want to end on. That's the really poignant thing you want to end on. And unfortunately, after Briggs survives, you've then got the stuff with the nuclear missile.
Yeah.
So you'd have to completely restructure episode 4 in order for that to be the finale, because that has to be the finale.
And would they have structured in like they did in Remembrance, like they did with Mike's funeral? Would they have the Brigadier's funeral as well at the end instead of having the kind of Scooby-Doo bit at the end of this one?
Well, yeah. You see, this is why I remember thinking at the time, guys. I hope they're not. It doesn't feel like the end of something. If you were going to kill off the Brigadier, I would have said, right, 4 episodes all about him.
Yeah,
building up like they did with Tom in Logopolis. That
well,
overwhelming.
It kind of felt like that, didn't it? But
doom.
It started. It was laying on this kind of doom and gloom. Even the music and the way they were talking, you coming back, not coming back. You don't need to do this, all that kind of stuff, suggesting he was going to be bumped off, and they really kind of laid it on really nicely. I thought,
Yeah.
I'm so glad they didn't. Although we did come up with that bloody awful thing around at the Brigadier's house.
I like that as well. There's a kind of queenness to it, and I'm going out with the girls. Hey,
but you see, they tried to repeat it in 2023 at the end of the Tennant things, didn't they? And I squirmed
in the
through
Doctor's
that
garden.
Well. Yeah. Because that scene, I don't know if I said in our review, but that scene at the end of the Giggle, I think it was, where they're in the garden, just reminded me of the same thing from Battlefield 1989, and I didn't like that ending. I think it could have been a little bit more.
I never made that connection.
Oh, did you not? I saw it immediately. Oh, here we go. We've been here before, and I didn't like it the first time round.
What did you guys think?
I think it's done better in Battlefield then, to be fair.
Yeah.
Going slightly off topic, but what did you guys think of the way that it's in the wedding of the song, or in series 6, where obviously the Doctor finds out that.
I didn't like it. No, I didn't like it. That took me out of the story. I hated this thing that they had to do, and I still do. And I've said this before, haven't I, Hoovers? I hate connecting the dots. Just get on with it. And I couldn't stand this whole thing. Now, Moffat, I reckon, was trying to be clever and trying to be respectful by honouring Nick in the show. You don't need to. And the amount of times I've seen this blooming picture of Nick in Doctor Who, and it's this one from Battlefield, this one we've been using tonight. It's been
Don't
Doctor
get
Who.
me started, but Cyber Brig, though, for God's sake. Please
I know, no, I don't want to. I don't want to go to that. But this picture was in a Sontaran episode. It was in one of the recent ones. It was in somewhere else. And it's a case of like, just get over it. Get over it. And I didn't like the fact that they wrote in the Briggs' death, because these characters, these legacy characters,
they don't need to die.
They're so close to us.
Yeah.
And we love them so much. And when we had that rubbish thing from RTD, Oh, surprise, surprise, still is here, where he kills off Sarah. Oh, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
No, get off. No. Sarah Jane is still out there as far as I'm concerned, with K9 doing what she does best. And the Brig, well, he's with Doris somewhere in a retirement home as far as I'm concerned. You know.
I liked the way they used it, because the whole idea was the 11th Doctor was avoiding his fate.
Yeah, but why didn't he just do it with somebody else, though? Why did it have to be the Brig?
Well, I think because it's the Brigadier, that's the jolt that, okay, I have to deal with this now. I can't keep running from it. I didn't mind that. I was more offended by Cyberbrig, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Cyberbrig was just
Cyberbrig. Yeah.
I agree with that. It actually served a purpose, although it wasn't necessary. No. Although I'd always liked in the Tennant era where he just said, the brig is stranded in Peru or something like that.
Yeah.
Throwaway lines.
Hey, listen, Duncan here is saying, I have that picture of Nick autographed by the great man himself. It was one of, I think, and I hope I'm right in saying, I think it was one that he liked because it was with him everywhere, that picture. I remember it. And the last time I saw him at a convention, there were lots of them there. And I thought, oh, you like this one, fella. You like this picture. You're proud of this one, you know.
Well, as long as you keep the hat on, though. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was the days, of course, when you didn't pay for an autograph as well. It was just starting to come in, I think, at that point where, this picture's, the photograph's £10 and the autograph's £10 or whatever, But it's lovely to see the Brig at this point in his life, retired, happy with Doris. There's a lot of you saying in the chat. Yeah. And Doris is, woohoo, everything you wanted it to be.
Yes. Remember Brighton? Yeah.
Well, there's a watch somewhere there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's nice. And the only reason, Emilio, you were talking about his sense of duty and all this. No, it's not. It's because the Doctor's there.
Yeah.
Well, he's not interested in else. I've mentioned, yeah.
Yeah. If there had been anything else, if it had been a Morgane and her troops doing whatever, no. If it had been the Daleks or the Cybermen, not interested, deal with it. But because the magic words is the Doctor is back, he's like, right, where's my uniform? He wants to go and see his mate. He hasn't seen him for a while. He wants to go and see his pal, and he wants a bit of the old time thing. And he knows he's going to get a laugh and a bit of fun and a bit of adventure.
And he can't understand why he doesn't look like Colin Baker. That's what.
Woodhouse 122 is actually the name list. Look, the Brig and Doris are in chroma.
Catching crabs in chroma.
It's just one of these things. I've got Woodhouse where I don't need a current production team to explain a legacy character to me. I will decide personally for myself through my own imagination where they are. Yeah. And right now, as far as I'm concerned, they're all out there doing what they do. I don't want it in the series. I think it's disrespectful as well. I know. I'm sure they weren't supposed to. I'm sure it was supposed to be a nicer tribute, but Emilio, it took me right out of that episode to the point where I've dismissed it. I can't remember it at all.
Yeah.
Shame, says Robin. Hello, Robin. Shame they didn't feature Nicholas Courtney in the main show 2005 to 2008 before he fell ill. But I had a funny idea. G. Marsh would have been his first and last stories.
Was he not meant to be in the wedding of Sarah Jane at that point? But he couldn't manage it.
He was. They also tried to shoehorn him in with a Tennant one back in there. But he was poorly, wasn't he, Nick? He did go through that whole period. Remember where he was quite ill?
Yeah.
God love him.
I think what they failed to do in the new era was kind of establish a kind of head of unit that is actually a likable and can kind of take on that baton that Nick left. I always liked Captain Bombo or whatever in the Planet of the Dead. I thought she was a good kind of leader.
And turn left as well, isn't she?
And turn left as well, exactly. But I think they just failed to capitalize on that, and instead they just thought having a character that the Brig daughter just in name and in terrible acting were going to be enough to get people interested. So
she doesn't have her father's charisma, does she? Let's be honest.
No.
Again, I just find it. I think it's another fan piece. I don't know if you know about this, Emilio, but Kate Lethbridge Stewart was actually introduced in a fan story called Downtime in the Wilderness Years with a different actress.
Yeah.
And how the hell did they manage that when it was a different character from a different company with Nick in it?
one good thing that New Who did, they did give him a knighthood, though, didn't they? That was good. That was nice.
So yeah,
Yeah.
as it should be actually, because he
Yeah.
would have been.
Should have been Sir Nicholas Courtney as well, probably. Yes.
Yeah, it should have been.
Yeah.
But for me, Battlefield is, apart from the Sarah Jane Adventures episode where I loved seeing Nick in that one. I was like, oh, there he is, and he did it so well as
He
well.
did,
Bless
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And he was so happy to be back with Liz. You could tell the two of them were just so excited.
Yeah, it was lovely.
But this is the Briggs' last hurrah, of course, in 1989, and I'm so glad they didn't bump him off, because I don't think it would have been the big spectacle in this story it should have been. In fact, it would have had to have been a film to please me. It would have to be a great big multi-million-pound bloody film to bump off the Brig, because he's a legend. To this day, he's still a legend, and they can't leave his legacy alone, can they?
Yeah.
They just have to keep referring back to him every 20 minutes. Leave him alone. Just
you need Benton in it, Ali. You need some of the old characters to come with him. I think if you're going to do an episode, in hindsight, get Yates and Benton and get the old gang back together if you're going to do it. But yeah.
A lot of you now remembering Downtime. Was that ever? I had the video of that because of whom was in it. Did it ever come out on DVD? Do anybody remember?
Yeah, it did. I've got a copy somewhere, but I don't think it's. You'll have to look on eBay for it, because it's not something that's Heath Barnfather's got in stock, or you can get through.
It's a weird one, but we'll be talking about them later on, won't we, JT? So
yeah, possibly. Yeah. Stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed. So that was the Brig and stuff like that. But yeah, any other favorite particular moments, whether it be Gene or Nick or whomever? Let's have another picture.
Get off my world.
Oh, that's a good line, isn't it?
I think that whole bit of him and the Destroyer is marvelous. And then at the end, he's just like, well, I do the best I can.
Nothing ventured. And then the Destroyer said nothing gained. That's a lovely moment too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or when Doris said to him, you don't need to keep playing soldier. He's like, I'm not playing soldier. I love that. Yeah,
I'm not playing. Yeah,
I'm not playing. No.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, though, isn't it, that there's so much of the Brig in Who as well. For the new fans, any new fans that come along via proper Doctor Who to discover and fall in love with him all over again. That's again another strength of these episodes we're looking at here, because there's nobody quite like it. They tried their very best, I think, in modern Who to get characters that are as powerful as people like the Brig, but I think because they try too much, it doesn't work.
Trying too hard. Yeah.
We've got a Lethbridge Stewart in charge of unit now. Why didn't they just come up with their own version of a new Brigadier and let the actor and the scripts build a new character?
As Nick himself said, his career could be so different. He wasn't cast as Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, and David Langton from Upstairs Downstairs could have got that part. Imagine that, it'd be very different,
Yeah,
really.
Also, Nick has that kind of, I think, unique twinkle in the eye quality that is very, very rare to find in actors.
Yeah.
Now, this is very interesting. Alfie is saying that Downtime is here on the tube, really, and Geriatric is in $23.37 on DVD from Amazon or $7.99 on Prime Video.
That's how I watched it on YouTube. I actually really enjoyed it. It's a lot better than the last couple of years of Doctor Who. I watched it like a year ago, and it was good fun.
The Yeti are a bit unfortunate, though, I have to say. But
they've been on the diet though, Paul. It was
they've not been well.
It was the 90s, yes.
Yeah.
Too much shredded wheat had just passed through them.
Yes.
The Brig found a use for his silver bullet, says Julianne. Absolutely. And Woodhouse 122 saying the same thing. Everything from the Downtime DVD is available on the Tube of Who, even the making of. Plus, Ian Levine is doing his own extended AI version. Oh, is he really? Oh, that's interesting. AI. We're going to be talking about AI on Sunday here on the channel on Headlines, live at 8 o'clock.
Live from Yorkshire as well.
If you know, you know, by the way, what we're going to be talking about there. Steve Hindley is saying to us, Emilio, Downtime is better than any new Who.
Definitely better than everything we've got in the last 7 years, I would agree.
Yeah. Andrew is pointing out to us, Andrew Parker, Gene Marsh and Nick Courtney, it was a Dalek Master Plan reunion. We haven't chatted about that, but I remember certain older fans at the time wetting themselves over this because they vaguely remembered the Dalek Master Plan. So this is through the Dwaz local groups and stuff like that, I remember. and they're going, oh, we're getting Nick and Jean in the same episodes again, and I'm like, okay, this is a thing. I must be excited for this because I didn't have that connection. You know, I never, you know. Some of them were a little bit disappointed, but as you said, we got that scene. We got that beautiful scene where the two warriors are together, and they love it, don't they? They're very good together.
And Nick didn't get his own back in Kilmore Game, because that would have been even, wouldn't it?
That's very true. Oh, there's lots of you in the chat. Lots of you saying you're looking forward to our future shows here now that we've got the Gatwood nonsense out of the way. This is just the start. Let's have a look at what's coming up next week. It's the one that a lot of you have been looking forward to. We complete our Worlds Below season with the Sea Devils, starring, of course, the mighty Pertwee. Oh, my goodness.
Hooray!
I can't wait. If you want to catch up with our Worlds Below series, it is available for you here on the channel. That's where we get to look at everything else, which is Silurian and Sea Devil. Absolutely. And we're going to be doing the Sea Devils now because some of you may have actually been watching it here in good old Blighty through You and Eden, wherever it's called. Yeah, it's been there because it's been on and on and on and on and on. But we're going to be looking at that a week on Friday. We're going to be kicking off your weekend next weekend on Friday night, live at 8 here on the channel with our Sea Devils review. It's a great opportunity now. You've got plenty of time to go and watch those beautiful 6 episodes. And let's all come back and look at that. I'm excited about that one, everybody. Really am. But I was excited about this one too. And do you know what I'm excited for now?
But wait. Before we do what you're going to do, I would not be a good Melton Mowbray boy if I didn't shout out to my friends across the border in Rutland and say how marvellous Rutland Water looks in Battlefield.
Oh, for the location of Battlefield. Yeah.
Yes,
I didn't realise that was near you.
Yeah. So it's in Rutland, but I'm Melton Mowbray's in Leicestershire. So yeah, I grew up around there.
Really? I never knew that.
I walked around it many a time.
Yeah. It does look good, though, that, you know, again, I think it would look better on film, but it does look good.
Did you wander around, Phil, doing that kind of thing with your gadget, trying to find...
I wander around everywhere like that, trying to find something. So.
Can I just say, actually, you've reminded me on that one. That is brilliant. That is Sylvester being the Doctor. That's the Doctor. The bit where he's got his back to it. Yes, the signal's definitely over there. And then she turns it around, the machine goes off. That's the Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's great when you've got a gadget. Superb.
All you know, from Pertwee onwards, we see another case of that exact sort of thing in the Sea Devils, don't we? There's another beautiful thing there, but the majority had them from, I would say, from Hartnell on. Yeah, from Hartnell. Yeah, to McCoy. Wonderful. I love that scene. Get rid of it. All right, then. Here we go. Then it is time in the chat. Start putting out of 10 your scores for Battlefield as we go to scores on the TARDIS doors. Ooh, lovely jubbly. Before that, we actually have we've got Teddy himself coming in, haven't we, Phil?
We have.
He's given his score on the TARDIS door for this. So let's bring him on here and let's have a look and see what he said about Battlefield.
For the Battlefield episode, I would rate it a 9 out of 10 because it was very good. And my favourite parts were with the really, really long helicopter ride and the destroyer. But why did he talk for so long?
Why did the destroyer talk for so long?
He just wanted him to get on with it.
I was padding.
Yeah, if you're going to destroy the planet, get on with it.
Crack on.
He's right, though, isn't he? He's not wrong at all. He's going around going, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. As you say, Paul, it was the Scooby-Doo moment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, then. So we're going to start with the scores here, and we'll start with Emilio, Time Lord Victorious. What are you going to give us out of Battlefield out of 10?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'm going to drop. I think it's a great episode. There's some very interesting themes. I like the melding of kind of medieval warfare with modern warfare that it covers. I love the kind of, well, I don't love, but I like the kind of mythology, sci-fi element when it's mixed together and it's done properly. And I love seeing Nicola Courtney. I can't get enough of seeing Nicola Courtney. I love him. So those are the positives. My downsides would be, some of the effects. Can't blame it. BBC budget back then. And I would also say that, the Destroyer, you built him up into a big thing and then he just does nothing. It's a bit, it takes a lot of attention and effort away. And there was some, I would say, awkward scenes with Ace from time to time in the episode, which kind of made me grit my teeth a little bit. So the things that niggle me, but overall it's a proper Doctor Who story. Great characters and interesting themes.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll go to Brigadier. What are you going to give this?
Yeah, as you might tell, I'm probably slightly biased because for those who haven't worked out, my name Bedwyr comes from the Legend of Arthur. Bedivere, throwing Excalibur into the lake. Although he doesn't apparently do it in the original story the first time. Arthur sends him back. I have wonderful nostalgia for watching it in '93. I just love it. It's an absolute 10 out of 10 for me because not just the cast, it's my favorite Doctor companion combination. We've got the Brigadier in there. Jean Marsh is wonderful. The Destroyer is incredible, and it's just brilliant Doctor Who for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right then, Paul, what are you going to give this out of 10?
Well, I saw this on original broadcast when I was 8, and it was fabulous. And a little white lie there. Yes. And but I've always loved this story. I think you should get more love than it actually does because it is a fantastic story. Some great characters. I love Jimmy Ellis in this. He's brilliant. Yeah. Nick Courtney's superb in this. I can forgive Kev's music. I quite like it. The pacing of this is quite fast. When I watched it this afternoon, it went like that, really fast. Really enjoyed it. And it's a great story. I'm with Teddy, 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Fantastic. Yeah. All right then, Phil.
Okay. I've done the full U-turn on this because when I first saw it, I thought it was great, but I was 8. So, yeah. Then I was really looking forward to it being on video. And then I got it on video and I actually found it almost a bit boring. I didn't really gel with it. But actually, watching it the other day with Ted and kind of understanding it properly, I did really, really enjoy it. I'm going 9.
Wow, that's fantastic.
9.
That's brilliant, a 9. Okay, so for myself, I'd like to send a huge thank you to Russell T. Davis and Ncuti Gatwa for making me appreciate this story more than I ever thought possible. Back in 1989, my 19-year-old self would have given this at least a 3, and that would have been for Nick only. I've watched it once in the in-between years, and that's when it came out on the video. And I don't remember it at all. I must have thrown that one into the tail. Anyway, I've watched it several times because of this review coming up, and that's why I want to thank Russell and Ncuti because I've reassessed this. This is brilliant Doctor Who, and it's what I needed. It's absolutely fantastic. I do think there are better Sylvester McCoy stories out there, but I really, really enjoyed this. I'm giving it, and my 19-year-old self will not believe this, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic. Let's go and see what you're all saying in the chat. We've got a lot of you with us. Thank you. 7 out of 10 for the Legion of James. 6 out of 10 from Rory and Cheryl and friends too. Paul, PTA, is giving it a 9. Forbidden Man, nice 10 for me. Good for you. Richard Brooks wants us to know that other pies are available. Andrew Parker is saying 6 out of 10. Gavin Graham is giving it an 8. Derek is looking forward to the Sea Devils a week on Friday. Come join us, mate. Jess is saying 9 out of 10. It says it all. Classic, no nonsense Doctor Who. Alphabet Cat is giving it a 7 out of 10. It's an enjoyable romp. Oh, there's a JNT word, romp. And good to see the Brig back. Also, Jean Marsh is compelling as Morgana on the game. Noel Thrussell, 9 out of 10. Alfie Jack, 8 out of 10. Great fun. It's always a great rewatch. Mark Milford is giving it a 10 out of 10. And the Brig 1,000. Mudcrab, 6. It never really fully worked for me. The Brig stuff is great, but so much of the rest, it's just there. Woodhouse 122, 7 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10 from the talents of Wayne Chiang. Steve Braddock is saying the Brig, Bessie Mulgain, the Doctor on top form, some great scenes in the Destroyer, 10 out of 10. Steve Hinley, it's been a while since we've had 10 out of 10s on this show. I can tell you. At least, 9 weeks. Steve Hinley is saying 10 out of 10, far more entertaining than Corrie, and an England 0-0 draw with Sweden. Oh, I'd forgotten about the footy ball thing. Marie UK, 10 out of 10 for Jean Marsh. Good for you. The Destroyer's voice was awesome. That's why, says Stephen Genie Frith. Okay, 7 out of 10 from Stephen O'Neill. Thank you for that. Marie UK, good night. See you again later. Bill Lowry, 8 out of 10. Again, McCoy didn't have the gravitas to be in charge, but great to see the brig face down the threat. Duncan the Funky Evans is saying 9 out of 10, only because of Fenric being in the same season. Paul Schlefter is saying 7 out of 10. It's a great story overall. And Stephen Ginny Frith, 10 out of 10. My God. Richard Brooks, 10 out of 10 for the brig and Sylve saving Sophie. G. Marsh for being fabulous. It's a shock seeing 10 out of 10s again on this show. I tell you, John Mason is saying 5 out of 10. Cringe acting, poor directing, horrible title sequence. The era turned me off Doctor Who. A lot of people relate to that. I know what you're saying. Derek Hart, I give 8 out of 10 for the Destroyer. Jason Parker, 7 for the brig, 7 for the gorgeous TARDIS, 1 for the story, and 0 for the boom acting. Is Janet Fielding doing behind the sofa on this? I can't remember. What did she think about the darker TARDIS? I'm sure she must have loved that.
I can't remember.
Yeah, Janet Fielding's on there with Sarah Sutton and Annika Wills.
That's right, yeah. I wonder if they said anything about their TARDIS is better than ours, it's darker.
No, well, the story is it was all falling apart, so they had to.
It's terrible. Yeah. Those
because...
walls aren't the original console room wall either. They are blown. They are quick rondel things because it warped in storage.
Yeah,
so they didn't
you only see 2 or 3 of them as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's 2, and they're very big, and you can see that the rondels are bigger because they're not actually. Well, they weren't the proper ones. Who else? We've got Lexis saying 9 out of 10 for the mystery of the Doctor and for great story and adventure. We haven't got this Jodie and Gatwa era. Classic Who rules every time. It's never dated. Robin Calvert is saying 8 out of 10. Thank you very much. Derek Hart, 10 for Nick, Jean, and the cast. The Jamie 9526, 10 for Ace trying to get a pint in on the technicality that if it's the future, she'd be far enough from her birth for a drink. Rory and Cheryl saying, yeah, at least you know this is Doctor Who. Julie Ann is saying to us, 8 out of 10, very enjoyable, great return for the brig. G Marsh was great. Amelia, you're gonna have to pop off now, aren't you?
I'm gonna jump off, but this has been absolutely lovely. It's been amazing to talk positively about an episode of Doctor Who and to actually rewatch some proper Doctor Who. So thank you JT, thanks to everyone watching, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the week.
Well, hopefully we'll see you for the Sea Devils next week.
Yes,
definitely.
All right, later.
Nice to see
you.
you.
See you later.
Can I say something about the drink? Someone mentioned about drink.
Yeah.
We made me laugh out of this. The 7th Doctor is a glass of water. If that was the 3rd Doctor, it'd be a double scotch or a bottle of claret or something, you know.
Ian Scales is saying that this is criminally underrated. Geriatric is saying it's aging better than I am. It's 8 out of 10. Hey, Bedweir, Excalibur is totally awesome too, says Dave Hindley.
Well, I think I've heard of that. I might look it up.
It's a very interesting film.
I mean, it can't be worse than the King Arthur with Clive Owen.
I'm not. Well, you'd have to see it. Peter Venkman fan saying 9 out of 10. It's an interesting story, characterization, and return of the brig and Bessie. I didn't see this as a kid, just within the past few months, so no nostalgia glasses here. Good for you. What else we got? Jess is saying to us, the war between the land and the sea is the cover, still missing the Doctor Who logo. Well, yes, but let's not talk about that. We're having a nice time. Georgia Donald is saying 9 out of 10. Anyone for any more? It's done very well. Simon Mills, 9 out of 10. Battlefield, I never thought I'd see Battlefield doing so well. Wow, isn't that amazing, everybody?
This is the worst of the series.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Supposedly, yeah. That's the thing. Fan wisdom is always correct, is it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Is someone keeping a running total of the scores? What the average is?
Yeah.
Bedweir, what's the average, mate?
Off my head, 8.5.
Nice.
Love the scene at the end where the girls all go off in Bessie, says Stephen Bradford. Well, each to their own. Yeah. 6 out of 10 from Mark Rice. So much potential, but lack of production values, campy acting, and tinny music prevents me from giving it more. An unrealized epic. 6 out of 10 is still very good, Mark.
I think there are heightened performances, but they're much straighter than what we got from Shooty, I have to say.
Oh really. My God! Yeah. Well, these are great, Mark. I mean, fantastic. Ian Scales said we were taking to see Excalibur as school kids. You never were. Bloody hell, really? But what about that? What? Oh my God! That's because they didn't want to teach you biology. And Legion of James is very, very happy, saying, "Woohoo! Hashtag justice."
Yeah, it's
for
one. It's
Battlefield.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. And Graham is saying, "Oh, just back. Oh, it's got to be an 8 out of 10." Oh, all right, thank you, Graham. Just 8 out of 10 for that. Duncan is also saying, "Totally hashtag justice for Battlefield." Yes, I think you've proved to everybody, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has justice for Battlefield here on Who's Views Reviews tonight.
Can I ask a question, Jason? Ask about ratings on this. I know we talked about it before, but with the current series, they have 1 episode, right? Battlefield has 4. Can we count all 4 episodes together, not just an average? That'd be about 12 million, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I don't see why not.
Yeah, exactly. No. And then add on the repeat as well that you saw. That's about another probably 6 million at least. That was that 14 million there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, they could get away with that, couldn't they? Stephen O'Neill, what ratings did Battlefield get when it first broadcast in '99? Part 1 got 3.1 million, Part 2 got 3.9 million, Part 3 got 3.6 million, and Part 4 got 4.0 million. There you go.
So I don't know if Gavin Graham is in the chat watching this episode or saw the previous episode where we talked about this, but yeah, I did go and look up that Part 1 clashed with the England-Sweden Football World Cup qualifier, the infamous Terry Butcher blood wound, and yeah, 3.1 seems like quite a good result given our context. And nowadays, live sport is the only thing that really gets big numbers, apart from the odd notable drama
or bits of plasticine.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. What would Timothy Dalton be like as Doctor Who? Says Lex Kane for a super chat. You're never going to know.
Intense.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Lots of spitting. Yeah.
Oh, we've got a couple more here. 6 out of 10 from Andrew Parker. It's still above average. And Rodney Strickler, 8 out of 10. At least in this, they tried to introduce a new brig that isn't ALS.
Lethbridge do it.
Oh, and she's brilliant. And as I said in the show, we took to her. We liked her. I mean, she was so well liked that didn't they try to bring her back in Bogfanish?
They have done.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
But
so
I think
had an impact.
if the series had continued into the 90s, that was your new unit team. It was all set up and ready to go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we've got here from Mark, right? Compared to the acting in the shooty year, Battlefield acting comes across like a Ken Loach film. And Paul Schluft is saying, I think the repeat rating should be included, considering the current series tries to grab numbers from everywhere to try and up the ratings. Yeah. Stephen O'Neill is saying, better ratings for Battlefield than the current crap they've been showing. Well, you've been showing that, haven't you, in headlines, Badweer?
Yeah, go back and look at our headlines. Most recent, well, this time last week, wasn't it? Where we talked through all the +7s and plus and overnight ratings. Battlefield is not as bad as some of the +7s. I mean, I even saw this week that the +28 for Lux was only 3.48 million. And that's that's lower than Part 2, Part 3, Part 4 of Battlefield got on the night, and Lux didn't top those over 28 days. So,
And what's the population in 1989 versus now? I mean,
nothing like it is today.
I'd say a bigger portion of the 1980s public were watching it.
Yeah. There's absolutely nothing like it is today. But the football was always popular for some bizarre reason with people. But I think we've had a great show tonight. I really enjoyed looking at Battlefield again, everybody. And it was good. I'm glad that we revisited it because I've reviewed it and I've, I think I've mellowed obviously over as time has to do because I really enjoyed it. But again, thank you, RTD and Shooty Gatwa. If it hadn't been for you, I don't think I would have enjoyed it. If you'd come up with something bloody brilliant, I think Battlefield would still be down there for me, but you didn't. And it comes to something, Russell, doesn't it? When a fan's telling you that Battlefield's better than any of your dross. Anyway, let's move on. Thank you very much, everybody. To Phil, to Paul, to Bedivere, and of course to Emilio. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I hope you've enjoyed the show. What a great show.
Very much so. It was great to be positive, as Emilio said. Fantastic.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It was absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? And here we are again. We're up and off. As we said just a few moments ago, the next review will be the Sea Devils with the mighty Pertwee himself. But I think this has been a great way to just remember G. Marsh, who passed away recently. What an actress, what a producer, what a writer, what a talent she was. We are going to be looking at doing a particular show to celebrate Jean Marsh here on the channel. So please keep an eye out for that. But isn't she cracking everybody in this?
Fantastic.
Morgaine, what a
Marvelous.
Tremendous.
From all of us, thanks for joining us, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new to us. Give us a thumbs up for this. If you're not new to us and you've been with us for a while, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's great to see you. Make sure you're still subscribed. Headlines is your next scheduled show here on Who's Views. I'm saying that a lot at the moment because you don't know what's going to happen these days, do you? But that's our next scheduled show live on Sunday night, 8 o'clock. Come and join us. We're going to be talking a little bit about AI, amongst some other stuff. We'll see you then. From all of us at the moment, ta-ra, everybody. See you soon.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
Night, everyone.
Oh.